The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
It's Tuesday. It's January 4th, 2022. I'm so used to saying 2021. I'm not yet in the year 2022 as of yet. But good morning and welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. It is another day where I am trapped in the closet and I realize that I am doing a first world problem. I don't have enough creamer in my coffee, but I'm in the middle of a show, trapped in the closet. Isn't that just something stating about the nature of the pandemic right now? Like, no, seriously, we are all dealing with first world issues on top of actual issues. We have the inconveniences of all the things that we can't get access to, all the things that we like to do, all the easy things that we love to have done. If it wasn't for the pandemic, life would have been so much easier. And yet we're trapped in our homes with the absurdity of everything that's going on outside of our homes. And that's only if we're lucky enough to not be an essential worker. So many Americans throughout the entirety of this pandemic did not have a choice whether or not they were going to stay at home because they were the ones who had to service our first world issues. The truck drivers, very specifically, the truck drivers from Amazon, from FedEx, from UPS, the people who bring us all of our junk, because at the end of the day, it's basically junk. But they have worked relentlessly through the pandemic, the entirety of the pandemic. And because our demand, because I have to be real with you, I, suffer from some of the same first world issues. At least for the first year of the pandemic, I purchased a whole lot of stuff on Amazon. That was until I realized and I discovered what Amazon drivers were going through. They were having to urinate in bottles inside of their vehicles in order to get me my junk. I don't know why that hit me this morning or why I even want to talk about it, but at the core of our system, we have those people who are at the underbelly of our society who make this system work. They are the essential workers. They never stopped. While I have been safely sheltering in place, broadcasting from my closet, while many of you have been safely in your home, homeschooling your kids throughout the entirety of the pandemic, we are a privileged elite at this point because we never really had to go out to make our living. We were able to just cut on a camera and complain about not having enough creamer in our coffee. Well, in the real world of politics, Donald Trump is facing some realities of his own. The fact of the matter is that he is facing investigations both on the federal level, but now as well on the state level. And the Attorney General of New York is closing in, as the Attorney General in New York is closing in on Donald Trump. The January 6th Select Committee has also closed in a little bit closer to Donald Trump's family. Ivanka Trump, as we played yesterday, has been noted as having gone into the Oval Office, or rather gone into the presence of the president and told him to call off the violence. This lets us know that Donald Trump stood alone in many regards in terms of his family and his inner circle. And he stood there believing that he himself was ordained to overthrow the United States government. I want us to take a listen to this first clip. And it's a clip of Liz Cheney as she describes the situation with Ivanka Trump. Okay, we'll get back to that clip. Let's run the first clip that we have that gives us the background as to what's happening with the Attorney General closing in on Donald Trump. Let's take a listen in.
We are following some breaking news at this hour. New York State's Attorney General has just issued civil subpoenas for two of former President Donald Trump's children, Don Jr. and Ivanka. This is part of the AG's ongoing investigation into the Trump Organization. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos is joining us now. Danny, can you explain a little more this move from the Attorney General here in New York?
You caught me reading it hot off the presses on the New York State e-filing system. Apparently, there was an order filed today, or a proposed order, that indicates that subpoenas for the Trump children have already been issued. We do know that one of the Trump sons, Eric Trump, has appeared in the past and has testified. So that, to me, indicates that if there is more information that's needed from Trump children, why wasn't that resolved at the earlier deposition? That suggests that possibly there's something new that's come up that they're asking one or more of the children to come back in and talk to the AG.
Danny, do we have a sense of how Don Jr. or Ivanka might respond to these subpoenas?
If history is any indication, Eric Trump has appeared already in the past. However, if the nature of this inquiry is something that may give them concern about any personal exposure, then we may possibly see them assert the Fifth Amendment. But there really isn't any indication based on the court filing that I reviewed from today.
You know, I just have to say, as a father, I just have to really, somebody's got to say it. Donald Trump is a horrible white father. I mean, what kind of man, human being, puts his children in harm's way in this fashion? Now, I know it's so far gone that he doesn't even care about his kids. Matter of fact, I was on Don Jr.'s timeline clowning him about the fact that your dad doesn't like you, Don Jr. So I know this conversation about fatherhood is neither here nor there for somebody like Donald Trump. That said, I think any decent human being, regardless of race, would look at this village idiot and really ask yourself the question, would you conduct yourself in a fashion that your children will then have to plead the Fifth before the Attorney General? Would you carry yourself in a fashion that your children would have to run into your presence as the president of the United States and say, you know what, Dad, maybe you should call off the Boogaloo Boys. Maybe you should call off the Proud Boys. And yet there Donald Trump stood in his arrogance. And it's something about what is it about the complete and total confidence of white mediocrity, especially white, rich, male conservative mediocrity. Nobody is more confident in their incompetence than people who have been sheltered their entire life and never been told no because they were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. Elon Musk never worked for anything, bought everything he ever owned, never discovered anything, barely coherent when he talks. Come on. But there's a breed of people on the face of this planet who have been given everything at birth, and they are so narcissistic. They are so deranged, and they're so callous that they don't think twice about the well-being of their children. I know that we don't extend empathy to the Trump children here at the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. Don't really care what they're going through. Their personal journeys can end up in hell as far as I'm concerned, but it still is a poor representation of a father who's going to put their children in a situation where they're going to have to plead the Fifth. And I think the white community, y'all need to come and do something about these bad fathers that y'all have taking all of this badness all the way to the White House and all the way to the steps of the Capitol. Dwayne, do we have that other clip? Let's run the second one.
We know as he was sitting there in the dining room next to the Oval Office, members of his staff were pleading with him to go on television, to tell people to stop. We know Leader McCarthy was pleading with him to do that. We know members of his family. We know his daughter. We have firsthand testimony that his daughter Ivanka went in at least twice to ask him to please stop this violence.
A person with knowledge of the investigation has told me that the committee has information from, quote, multiple sources with firsthand knowledge that describe what then President Trump was saying, doing, and not doing during the riot. That could be very important that he's not acting. The source said, quote, there's a collection of people with relevant information. Translation, Jake, firsthand indicates the committee is now hearing from people with direct knowledge. It could be someone who is in the room, someone on the phone, but these are people with firsthand information. I would say, bottom line, Jake, this means the committee has broken through Trump's wall.
I'm laughing because my homeboy Patrick just texted me and said, Donald Trump is a horrible white father. That should be a hashtag. Hashtag Donald Trump is a horrible white father, because what kind of father of any type will put your children in that circumstance? Coming up at about 8:20, we're going to have DJ Exclusive joining us, and we are looking forward to Georgia Ford coming on with On the Clock at the half-hour mark. But I am so elated right now. I can't tell you how ecstatic I am to have my wingman flanking me, watching my six, none other than Guy Fawkes himself with that mustache. Dr. Carl Mack, how are you this morning, brother? Good to have you.
Brother Dixon, I'm cool in the gang. Thank you. How you doing? And Happy New Year to you and the crew.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. And Happy New Year to all of the aunties in the audience who just got a little bit more excited. They woke up and they perked up a little bit because they saw the Mac is back in the saddle. Listen, I want to ask you about, we talk about politics a lot, but you and I are both fathers. We talk about fatherhood offline more than anything else, if you ask me. What do you think about Donald Trump as a father, being that he is putting all three of his children in a position where they're going to have to plead the fifth or just outright ignore subpoenas? And on top of that, that's on the state level, New York. On the federal level, they're going to have to plead the fifth because of, January 6th, or information is coming out about January 6th showing that Ivanka Trump begged him to stand down. That sounds like a really horrible father figure to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ben, think about his lineage, right? His father, well, first of all, they have German descent, right? So when you start talking about that white superiority complex, what other group better exemplifies that, for race cleansing and the likes than the Germans? And then his father, Fred Trump, was arrested as a young man at a Klan rally. So where do you think Trump's influence comes from? Right? His influence comes from that. And then when you probably, if you were to trace the money and to find out how dirty that money is, his whole life, he was raised by a man that, in your terms, was sorry, right? So does it make any sense that his children would follow suit? That's and right. Then you put that privileged mindset in them, that piece that says, I'm the greater of the two, that has you to look down on humanity. None of that is surprising when it comes to him. And then once he gets into power, he gets drunk with that power. His children, I remember when the inauguration was occurring, when they were all standing there for the swearing-in ceremony, you could clearly look at the face of his children, and it was almost as though they mouthed, I can't believe this mother got here. I cannot believe we're here. So now that he's there, and you have a segment of this country who absolutely idolizes his ideology of make America great again, the rise of the white power. He's got that influence being injected into him. His children are seeing it. Very easy to see how this monster was created and grew and got out of control. That's right.
That's right. Bad fathers beget bad fathers. And I'm thinking about how horrible, and not just bad fathers, but bad human beings, how horrible the Trump children must really be underneath all of the plastic surgery and all of the money and all of the veneer of their happiness. They must be really miserable human beings because they have daddy issues, because they have a sociopath as a father who made it all the way to the White House. So they have to look at each other and say, how can this evil, sadistic son of a Lyndon B. Johnson make it this far? And then you know what they say? We're going to model it, and we're going to do the same bad, evil behaviors as our poor, white, evil father, Donald Trump.
Well, Ben, I would say this. Every one of those adjectives that you used, that's America. That's America when it comes to, politics has gotten so out of control now. I don't mind you disagreeing with me. But if we sit aside and everybody work toward that ideology of a more perfect union, clearly we're going to be so much better. But when one truly studies the legacy of what Trump meant to this country, you look at the divisiveness, just the outright abandonment that people really have of politics now. Because they don't care what the cost is. Everybody is wrapped up into their power. They are playing to a base. This ideology of a better America, being able to understand one another's issues and to work for the common good. Nobody has that as an interest anymore. And Trump basically showed them a playbook that these cats have absolutely adopted. And, I listened to some of the folks that you mentioned yesterday, and I've just been out of it because it's been sickening to me. But the woman, who was the woman you mentioned yesterday? That's just crazy. This white woman is just insane.
There's so many. Who did we talk about yesterday, David?
We'll name any of them, but the
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene, that Neanderthal. Yes.
Just go down the line. And again, they're coming right out of that Trump playbook. And this is what we've come to. So you look at the impact of what his father would have had to him, what he now has to his children.
That's right.
To be able to have, and I don't care how you cut this, but in the end, his legacy is that you attacked democracy on January 6th.
That's right.
You know what you did. All of us know what we saw. Now what we're going to see is, do the Democrats have enough muster? Not even Democrats. Do American politicians who swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, are they going to have enough spirit, enough righteousness in them to bring this fool to justice? And all that were a part of that absolute embarrassment of American democracy are all of them. And so it's beyond Democrats. It's Democrats, Republicans, independents alike. And again, Ben, try to imagine if this fool runs for president again and he gets even close. It is an indictment in this country of just how far we are away from that more perfect union.
Man, you come back and let's talk about some better stuff. Because what you just said was so true to the point of kind of depressing. We are so far from a more perfect union. But I have a feeling that if we look to the past, if we look to our history, we can get better insight as to how we fight these battles today. Brother Matt, could you tell us what happened today in Black history?
As a matter of fact, I can as I reach back here. There was this sister, and I'm going to hold this page up, and I hope you can see it, right?
We have some images. We have graphics for you.
All right, good. So this is Grace Bumpery, right? And so Grace Bumpery was born on this day in 1937 in St. Louis, Missouri, and she was the first Black to play at one of the famed operas in Germany. She played the role of Venus. Now, normally, this role calls for a woman of so-called Nordic beauty, a white woman, right? Now, the Germans are a very conservative opera group. And so what happened is when they found out that Bumpery was cast for the main role of Venus, there was complete outrage. But nonetheless, they attended the show. And when this sister finished her performance, her ovation, I think, was almost like a 30-minute standing ovation. So today, in 1937, that beautiful sister that you now see on your screen, Grace Bumpery, our Black Venus, was born.
Wow. Hello, somebody. Beauty is ageless, timeless. Beauty is beauty. And talent, the mastery, the skillfulness, it's something that the people can never deny. Neanderthals and all. One thing that irritates white supremacy more than anything else is Black excellence. And but when they see it, in motion. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
And I wish that I had the latest copy of Opera News, right? And so I'll tell you this. Before I started Black history, of course, I had no idea of any Blacks in opera, let alone, making a real mark, dominating the profession. And so when I was in Seattle, I met this family, the Bridges, and beautiful, beautiful family, lived in Tacoma. And one of their daughters followed in my footpaths and became a mechanical engineer, specifically because she met me and I'm a degreed mechanical engineer. And then as the president of NAACP, their mom came to me and told me about another sister. And sight unseen, I allowed this sister to perform at an absolutely packed house of the NAACP, our Freedom Fund banquet. Today, this sister is on the cover of Opera News. Her name is Janae Bridges. So if you all have a chance to see Janae and to know that I know this young sister had a chance to give her, an opportunity to showcase her talent. And Ruth Ginsburg, before she died, the last opera she saw at the Kennedy Center, she went there because Janae Bridges was performing. And Janae actually came to a command performance for Ginsburg's birthday. So an absolutely young, talented, beautiful sister. So when we talk about our history, here you go. In an arena that you may not think that we're still dominating in and showcasing our talent. And there you have it. So, as we talk about Grace Bumpery today, let that lead you into a path where you can understand other up-and-coming young sisters who are doing the damn thing. Janae Bridges. Yeah, man.
Janae Bridges. That is awesome to hear. And I mean, Brother Mac, who don't you know, man? Let me tell you, when I first met Brother Mac, we were talking about the show. One of the things he said, well, Brother Ben, when I start thinking about my Rolodex, it does get kind of interesting. That's the dopest way of saying a whole lot of people. Listen, there's another bit of history that's happening today. Congressman Bobby Rush has announced that he is not returning to the Congress. He is retiring. And I know, Brother Mac, if we talk about Black history and we think about this brother and his contributions, he's living. He is a living piece of Black history.
I haven't studied Brother Rush much of his history and lineage, but certainly his name evokes a feeling of pride. A brother who's been there on that front line. Again, I'd like to get more into his life and times, and so and I'll say this to people, Ben, when you and I met, and we were on another show, and I laid out the history of Juneteenth. And it was in opposition to everything that everybody knew. And one of the things that humbled me and drew me to you is you said, damn, that brother just dropped knowledge that I had no idea about. And most of us cannot admit that. As much as I've studied African-American history, there's so much more I still glean to want to understand. And in this case with Brother Rush, I don't know a whole lot about his history, but now that we've introduced Brother Rush, trust and believe, when this show ends, I'll pick up and I'll start doing research on him. So, for what we don't know, it's okay for us to admit that. But I appreciate in this platform, Ben, that we have a chance to talk about sisters like Grace Bumpery or Janae Bridges, and now we get to introduce Bobby Rush. Because I'll tell you this, I remember meeting John Lewis when he was alive in Seattle. Yeah. And at the time, I didn't have the full appreciation of who that brother was. And I missed an opportunity to sit down and dialogue with a real warrior. I really missed that opportunity, but that's what happens when we don't know that history. So in the case of Brother Rush, for as little as I know about him, I want to thank you for introducing him to me today again. Yes, sir. And trust and believe next time you mention Brother Rush, I'll have a little bit more to say about him.
That's the professor side of you speaking to the professor side of me, because if a student came to me and said, I really don't know the answer to this question, that's the kind of answer I would want them to write. Like, just write that thing out and let me know. And to be honest with you, I don't know as much about Bobby Rush as I should know. I do know, of course, the congressman from Illinois, and I have a clip of him from a floor speech where he is wearing a hoodie in honor of Trayvon Martin. And so the gap of knowledge that any of us have, I think this clip will help us fill in the gap in terms of the lion that is retiring, that is Bobby Rush. Let's take a look at him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the death of is indeed an American tragedy. Too often, this violent act that resulted in the murder of Trayvon Martin is repeated in the streets of our nation. I applaud the young people all across the land who are making a statement about hoodies, about the real hoodlums in this nation, particularly those who tread on our laws wearing official or quasi-official clothes. Racial profiling has to stop, Mr. Speaker. Just because someone wears a hoodie does not make them a hoodlum. The Bible teaches us, Mr. Speaker, in the book of Micah 6:6-8,
the member will suspend.
These words.
The member will.
These words. He has shown you, O man.
The member will suspend.
Good.
The chair must remind members that
what does the Lord require of you, but to do justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with your God. And in the New Testament, Luke 4:18-20 teaches us these words. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because He has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and the recovery of sight to the blind, to set the oppressed free. I urge all who hear these words to heed these lessons. May God bless Trayvon Martin's soul, his family.
The member is no longer recognized. The chair will ask the Sergeant at Arms to enforce the prohibition on decor. The chair must remind members that Clause 5 of Rule 17.
You know, that about messed me up there, Brother Mac. I want you to hold tight. We're going to go to a break. We got DJ exclusive. He's going to give us some music because otherwise he better play some trap music. Otherwise, I'm going to bring out the gospel organ because when he said the Spirit of the Lord is upon him and he was on that floor wearing a hoodie and the speaker or the president of the House at the moment was telling him to sit down. And Bobby Rush was there speaking truth to power in the temples. DJ exclusive, take us to a break. When we come back on the clock with Georgia Ford, give us something, man, because otherwise I got an organ somewhere around here. We'll be back right after this.
Tell him I need my money right now. Brought me the juice, they stole out my crown. Sorry to tell you, I know my value. I'm gonna recoup it. But don't waste my energy, my energy. I don't got much, don't be wasting all my energy. I keep it tight, don't let nobody get close to me. My heart is right, don't question my integrity. No, I thought we would be just fine. And I thought your heart was like my
Good morning, people. Y'all know who it is. I know the voice, y'all know the sound. Your boy James Bubba Williams, DJ Exclusive is in the building. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Y'all make sure you grab your tea, your coffee, your juice, your beverage, whatever it is you need to get your morning started. Let's do the dang thing. Good morning, everybody.
What you want me for? I make what you've been saying about me true. Tell him I need my money right now. Brought me the juice, they stole out my crown. Sorry to tell you, I know my value. I'm gonna recoup it. Don't waste my loyalty. I let you in back then because I couldn't see. But now it's clear you ain't ever been true to me.
Good morning, y'all. Good morning, mama.
Handle your bitch intentions. Do what you think you need to do to get your revenge. But you won't break me, God, that's my witness. That's the point of no return, I'm on a mission. Tryna block my blessings, but no need for comparisons. What's from me won't be from me. Yeah, I'ma go through just to grow through. But pay me what you owe me for, I make what you've been saying about me true. Tell them I need my money right now. Tell them I need my money. Promise that you stay stole out my crown. Sorry to tell you, I know my value. I'm gonna recoup it. Don't waste my.
I could really use a change of scenery. Yeah, everybody's smoking all the greenery. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Laura Strada. Good morning, Alicia, Anna Loon, Brother Chuck Diesel. Barbara Ebron is in the building. Good morning, Esther Brochin. Afraid Not. Brother Mark S. Amber Layla. Good morning. Brittany Woods. Blue Cobra. Ron E. M. Broderson. Good morning. Shelby Hall. Brother Lateef. What's going on, Lateef? Father Hacker, what's up? We're Ear Hustler, Cypress. Courtney the SLB, what's up? Tiger Katsune, what's on, Tiger? Juice Cayman, Greg Better, good morning, Blind Mellow Jelly. Liz Bertelson, Jack, good morning, everybody. Tiger says, so funny story, I'm actually snowed in at my wife's job right now. I barely made it here and we can't leave. Been here since yesterday. We stood in the supply closet. She's been here for a full 30 hours. Woo! That's tough, Tiger. Y'all be safe out there. Dr. S, good morning. Hollywood, what's going on, Hollywood? Jill Potts, good morning. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate you. Iris Jones, good morning. Juanita. Shadow Boy, what's going on?
I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. Close to make the man, but that voice is gonna kill you. From the inside out, it's time to say it with your chest now, say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time, it's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to ride it out. It's my time, it's my time to ride it now. It's your time, oh. If you're on the bus, say yeah, yeah. If you're on the train, say yeah, yeah. If you gotta walk, say yeah, yeah. Everybody's going somewhere, yeah. You're the only really.
Ron, good morning to you. Melody Dennis, good morning.
Really been fair, yeah. So put your fist up in the air, yeah. Say yeah. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to run it out. It's my time, it's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free, can't nobody take me here and now. It's
all right, y'all know what time it is. It's time for On the Clock with our sister Georgia Horton here on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. Good morning, everybody.
Welcome back. That's Revel Day again. We are fans of Revel Day here. That one is actually, James, I forgot the name of that one. We listen to it every what's the name of that one, James, by Revel Day?
Oh my gosh, Still Fly.
Still Fly. Okay, I was about to say, man, I hope a DJ knows it. Coming up at 9:30, we're going to be discussing Antonio Moore. Is it Moore or Brown? I'm messing up everybody. Day Brown, Moore, Rebel Day. I'm messing up everything, but we're going to be talking about Antonio Brown with Rebecca Azor with Like It or Not. But first, investigative journalist Georgia Fort on the clock.
Good morning. Good morning. And probably just to help things out, because it's that kind of morning, we're going to do a little something a little different here. Usually we're talking about stories across the country, but this morning it feels like the story is more so a movie that the plot line in the movie feels inspired by the show, Ben. We often talk about environmental issues, and we sometimes imagine what could happen if there was a worst case scenario. And the way that a lot of these corporations continue to pollute the earth or not course correct when there's issues that lead to things like oil spills. What does that mean for 20 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now? And there's been this ongoing scenario, Ben, that we continuously circle back to, that the richest people in this country don't really have to worry about that because they could build a ship and they could fly themselves to another planet. This is the exact plot line that we see happen on a movie that has been trending on Netflix. I don't know if you guys have watched it. It's called Don't Look Up. It's a little bit of a dark comedy, but there's so many parallels in this movie to not just real life, but a lot of those things that we have been forecasting.
You know, I'm looking at Tyler Perry smiling there, and his role in the movie, Georgia, was probably the scariest to me because as a Black person doing media, we are often programmed to just smile and play our part. And watching this movie, it really did feel like they could have been watching our show, because we do joke about it all the time, that when the rich people have destroyed this planet, they're going to build a ship and they're going to leave. I mean, they're already practicing. They're already sending up the wealthiest people, the wealthiest elite. And the part of the comedy that was so realistic was the absurdity of how much they were willing to ignore for the sake of political expediency, right? It wasn't so much as the Meryl Streep role as president was ignorant. It was that she put her political interests first and primary over everything. And I swear to God, that's what's going on in real life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Happy New Year, Brother Mac, by the way.
Happy New Year to you as well. And thank you so much for the beautiful and thoughtful card you sent me.
Yes. Absolutely. It is a pleasure to have you back with us. Have you had a chance to see this movie?
I have not had a chance, and trust and believe on top of everything else, this is what I'll be looking at.
You definitely have to watch it. I mean, at first I was a little off put. I was like, oh my God, what is this about? It didn't feel like my kind of movie. But the further you get into it, and for those of you joining us online, feel free to share in the chats if you've seen it or not, what your thoughts are about it, what stood out to you the most. But, for me, once I got into it, I think it wasn't just the way that the politicians were dealing with it. It was also the way that the media was dealing with it that I found very fascinating. And it's because here you had two individuals who had made this discovery, and not just politicians were putting them off to the side, but the media was treating them as though they were crazy and trying to make something that was not light or something that's very heavy and serious. They're trying to make a joke of it. And it wasn't really until the final moments on Earth that people started to take it serious.
Yeah. And now I really do feel like the Tyler Perry role, because I'm certainly every morning trying to make sure that we laugh our way through the apocalypse. But most certainly, this is not funny, but at certain points you have to laugh for not crying. And I think that was the brilliance behind the movie. They said, let's laugh at how dark this reality is. I'm sorry, Brother Mac. I think I jumped in there.
I would say this, Ben, and Georgia, in regards to the media's role in it and the way that you saw that. Remember what Brother Malcolm said about the media, right? Brother Malcolm said the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and make the guilty innocent. So that is the power that they have on the masses. And one documentary that I did look at over the holidays was the documentary on Weinstein, right? And there was a piece in this documentary where Weinstein literally takes a reporter because he had recorded a very offensive statement that Weinstein made. And when Weinstein was trying to grab his phone and delete it, and he literally took this guy outside the bar in a headlock and was just punching him. And there were paparazzis everywhere. And we're talking in New York City. To this day, not one of those pictures have come up. Because that is the power of the wealthy. So you're looking at both sides of it, of what the wealthy can do and what the media does. So not one picture has ever been posted of it. So again, when you think about what Brother Malcolm said about this power of the media to influence folks, the rich has that very powerful source known as the media. And then when you got folks who are drunk with power, who will wield that power to control what the narrative is, you will have stories similar like this. So I'm very much looking forward to looking at this particular documentary. Yeah. And again, I think two of the people that you guys were talking about is now you got Elon Musk flying up around the world thanking all the Amazon folks for making it happen. While the average Amazon worker is grind out, having to piss in bottles while they're delivering. And then you got Elon Musk doing the types of things he's doing. So, certainly art imitates life now, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it does. Yeah. It does. And it will be I'll be curious to hear your thoughts about it. Because, Ben, when you make that parallel of you and Tyler Perry, I'd say the big difference, though, is you allow the audience a pathway to find joy and to laugh at our circumstances. You're not making fun of the people you bring on the show or making them feel like they're crazy. And so I think that's, the biggest difference is
we make fun of ourselves first and foremost here at the show, at the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. We definitely do that. But go ahead.
Absolutely. And so, you're definitely not that character, I don't think, not from my perspective. But the media at large, I think, does have a role, like you're saying, historically, Brother Mac, where it can manipulate. It can manipulate public perception. And that's it's a dangerous tool. It can be a very powerful tool, an impactful tool when used appropriately. But when it's not used appropriately, you can manipulate situations. For those listening, I'd also encourage you guys to share in the chat what you're watching on Netflix these days. I'll throw another one out there. I don't know if you guys have watched the documentary 137 Shots, but for some reason I decided to turn it on a Saturday night when I was just kind of hanging out at the house, and it reignited my desire to continue telling the stories of people killed by police in 2022. And the reason being was because this was a case I had never heard of in the same city where Tamir Rice had been shot and killed. Actually leading up to that, there was a man and a woman who were in a car that was shot 137 times by police. Reason being, the vehicle they were in rode past the police station, and there was a cop sitting outside who called in and said that this vehicle shot at him. Well, after the investigation wraps up, it's concluded that this was an old school Chevy that backfired in front of the police station.
My goodness.
And so after they surround this car, there's cops in front of it, cops behind it. And mind you, this is like 60 cop cars chasing them throughout the entire city. They surround the car. There's cops in front of it, cops behind it. The cops behind it shoot into the car, and then the bullets go out the front. So the cops in front think the people in the car are shooting out. So then they shoot, and then bullets go through the back of the car. So then the cops in the back of the car think that the people in the car are shooting. And so it's just, it was nonsense, really. And when they ended up getting into the car, they realized there was no gun. They hadn't shot. The car had backfired. And so 2 people, gone.
And those 2 people, Sister Ford, are Timothy Russell and Melissa Williams.
That's right.
The reason I know the case is because I just finished a 366-day calendar similar to Black Heritage Day 4, except it is all Black women. And so one of the things I decided to do when discussing Black women, and again, talking of using the thoughts of Brother Malcolm when he said the most disrespected person in this country has been a Black woman. And so when I decided to do this calendar, I wanted to showcase in every arena Black women, those things that have been triumphant and those things that have been tragic. And so in this case, I came across the story of Melissa Williams. And again, Melissa Williams, Sandra Bland, and other Black women who have been shot and killed by the cops. And yes, it was the most tragic story that happened in Cleveland. And she was riding around with her boyfriend, Timothy Russell, when they got pulled, when finally, after a high-speed chase, they pulled over. And one of the things that is just horrific is when you look at that car after all is said and done, you would think that, if any of us can remember any kind of movie that you saw with Bonnie and Clyde, and when it was all said and done, the car was just absolutely riddled with bullets, reminiscent of that. Very tragic. And again, no level of accountability. The narrative now gets changed where as if they were worthy of such treatment. They deserve such treatment because they were so dangerous. So again, and Sister Ford, I want to say this, and, speaking of Black women, when I look at and think about your body of work and continuously bringing these stories to us about what is happening, the sister that comes to mind that you are following in her footsteps, whether you know it or not, is a sister by the name of Ida B. Wells. Because Ida B. Wells constantly reported on the lynchings of Black folks in this country. And so now it's not lynchings by rope, but it's murder by the bullets at the hands of these thug-ass pigs. I just want to thank you for following in the footsteps of a great, iconic sister, Ida B. Wells. So just keep on keeping on. And I love you so much and so proud of you. And as I'm sure all of us and Brother Ben as well.
Yeah, no, it's a huge honor. It's a huge honor to have that parallel.
I was, because, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for stepping over that moment because what stood out to me, Brother Mac. Brother Mac is such a prolific wordsmith. Nobody can string some adjectives together better than Brother Mac. And we're going to have to do a special where you could just let it rip for real. Because, man, oh, man, there's nothing like hearing you quote Frederick Douglass with a little bit of Bernie Mac MF here and there. It's amazing.
The juxtaposition.
The juxtaposition. It's the iconic brilliance next to the ratchetness. It's amazing. I love it. And that's what Black folks do. Is like, when you let us be us, you can't touch it, right? And I think a lot of us in this space, and actually, I don't have to think, I can ask the two of you. A lot of us in these spaces, as we get higher up in these spaces in our careers, or even just 9 to 5 regular life, it's almost like if white supremacy just got out of our way, we could really show y'all what we could do. And so a lot of what we have to overcome are the barriers that are not only systemic around us, but also some of those barriers that are systemic in our mind, because honestly, all we got to do is think Black, be Black, buy Black, and everything else will take care of itself.
Well, Ben, I'll tell you this. I like the fact that it is what it is. Our experience in this country is what it is, and so, I know later we're going to talk about Antonio Brown, and I have a far different perspective of what I think most people do. But based on our experience in this country, if ever there's a group that needs therapy, we are it. And so when and again, I have been that only one sitting in boardrooms, sitting around that table. But I would tell you this. I like when they flex like that because it allows me to bring out my ET and my IB My ET is that educated thug, and that IB is that intellectual barbarian. So I don't mind bringing that shit out. And when I do bring it out, I bring it out unapologetic. Please believe that.
Wait. Give me the acronyms again. What are they? What are the two of them?
ET and IB. And that ET side of me is that educated thug. And that IB is that intellectual barbarian. So,
man. And you mix that with a little bit of irritable bowel syndrome, and you got a lot going on, man.
But rest assured, when they bring it out at that point, they are on the clock, Sister Ford.
I've never met somebody who's been able to be so sophisticated yet still so ratchet. Man. It's just
so ratchet, so brilliant and so ratchet. I love it's like Rebecca. She'll be here whenever Rebecca gets her Rebecca Zorg on. She loves the Lord so much. She's so righteous, but simultaneously, if you follow her Instagram, she ratchet as hell. So we got the intellectual thug and the righteous and the ratchet. And I don't know what I'm not even going to try that one on besides this border. What else, Georgia? What else are we looking at? Because I don't know if you've been watching that guy out of New York, the new mayor, Eric Adams. I don't want to, snatch the momentum of the show away, but that guy, when Brother Mac, when you said the something pig, the first person I thought of, because the acronym of what you said was TAP, T-A-P, something T-A pig. First person I thought of, and I really don't care about the trouble I'm going to get in because, well, this is the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. I thought of the new mayor in New York. I'm going to start light on him this morning. And here's a clip of what he's doing with regard to COVID-19. And as we look at everything else, all of us are parents on this screen. I want you to take a listen to what this new mayor is doing to the city of New York as it pertains to COVID-19.
We're really excited about the opening of our schools, and we want to be extremely clear. The safest place for our children is in a school building. And we are going to keep our schools open and ensure that our children are safe in a safe environment. When a mayor has swagger, the city has swagger. We've allowed people to beat us down so much that all we did was wallow in COVID. That's all we did. And we no longer believed. This is a city of swagger. This is a city of resiliency.
We need to realize we can't live our lives through COVID. Every variant comes out, we can't spend another $11 trillion. We spent $11 trillion on COVID. We have to figure out how do we live with COVID. Let's be smarter, social distancing, washing our hands, wearing our masks. When it's needed to do mandates for certain reasons, let's adjust and do so, and then we'll come back around. But this is a new reality that we must face.
I don't think I have to say anything else. Who wants it first?
Ladies first.
Brother Mac.
Okay.
Well, listen, I will dovetail it with this. Brother Mac, I will dovetail it with this. He's also advocating for the return of stop and frisk.
That brother is also advocating for a place special to me called the Kunta Hotel. He has some tap shoes on. He wants a primary suite in the Kunta. And I placed the Kunta. I place folks like this in there. Now, let's just go back and deal with what he said. He said the safest place for our children are in schools. I am here in Prince George County, Maryland. Prince George's County is supposed to be, has been labeled for a long time, the richest county in this country for Black folk. And I'm telling you right now, they have had to shut the schools down because of the outbreak of COVID. My son goes to school in the neighboring county, St. Charles County. This week, they are out of school because of the outbreak of COVID. In our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. has now become a hotbed because of the number of cases of the coronavirus, Omicron. So for this fool, it is clear to me what he is what I've heard is happening in Mississippi. In Mississippi, you got these white politicians who run under the Democratic ticket, they get elected, and then they immediately switch parties to the Republican. If this fool don't sound like he got a handkerchief on his head and taps on on the bottom of his shoe to be able to speak this nonsense and talk about how much money we have spent on COVID. Well, fool, let me clearly remind you, 830 some odd deaths, 837,000 deaths in this country because of COVID. Now, if you want to put a price tag on that, please go right ahead. But trust and believe, the swagger that you're talking about, see, you're reminding us of the Candace Owens counter, the Omarosa. Yeah, they're going to pet your little black bald head until they done with you. And once they done with you, there'll be no more patting of your head, but it'll be a foot right up your ass as they kick you. And we'll be visiting you 3 to 4 years from now, when you will be just another example of what the man has done with you when you've turned your back, not only on common sense, but you've turned your back on our community. Be done with you. Be dismissed.
Drop the mic. I mean, what do you say after that?
You tell that fool deuces. That's a Bob Felicia kind of moment. Because I'm going to tell you this. He ain't a man. He's a B kind of brother.
What did you put in your coffee this morning?
Hey, man,
what was your New Year's resolution? Because
it was the IB brand.
A whole new brother
man. He chose violence. He chose violence.
Usually when we come on your show, Georgia, we're all professional. We're talking about this and that. But then what do you guys do? You bring me back. I've been gone for a minute. And now you tee me up with this dude. You know he was a trigger point for me. You knew it, baby. Georgia, you knew it too. All right.
So Ben,
I had no idea he was going to play that clip. Don't play me.
I'm going to go to the clip that she thought we were going to play. Ben, before you go to the rest of the COVID stuff, unless Georgia has thoughts on that one, you might want to go to Vaughn.
Because Vaughn fit.
The only thing I'll say, because whenever we're having these conversations about COVID, there is a level of seriousness that we have to have, especially when we're talking about our babies.
Yes.
We knew from the very beginning when the CDC and the president allowed schools to reopen, we knew it was going to be detrimental for our children. And we brought on people to talk about homeschooling and different options. And we know that's not a possibility for a lot of people, but here we are. And even the CDC has rolled back the amount of time that you have to quarantine from, I think it was started out at 14 days during the beginning of the pandemic. It went down to 10. Now it's down to 5. So after 5 days, you can be out in public. I know more people now with COVID than I have through the entire pandemic. And so this thing isn't over. If you haven't been vaccinated, the people I know who haven't been vaccinated, who have gotten it, have been on ventilators or have passed away. And so I haven't been the person throughout the whole pandemic trying to tell people what to do. Your health, it's your body, it's your choice. But the thing that deeply disturbs me is nowhere in any of this messaging, whether it's coming from politicians, from scientists, from medical professionals, I really haven't heard anyone saying boost your immunity. At the end of the day, this is a disease that we know, if you have a compromised immune system, will overtake your body. And so regardless of what you do, whether you're vaxxed or not vaxxed, you can do some simple things like take vitamin C, vitamin D. They have the little organic immunity booster shots that you can get from the grocery store. No, is this saying it's going to save your life? No, but it's going to equip your body with what it needs to be able to fight anything, whether it's a common cold or whether it's coronavirus.
I'm thinking about those things that you're talking about, Georgia, and the fact that these people don't want you to do any of the things that would save your life. Not only do they not want you to take the vaccine, they also don't want you to socially distance. And I'm including Eric Adams in this conversation because they also want you to send your kids back to these incubators called schools, right? These petri dishes called schools. I mean, on the best of days, when the sun is shining bright and there's not a cloud in the sky and the wind is blowing just right, every school in this country is a petri dish that sends viruses home to families. And for Eric to say he doesn't even deserve to be called mayor, to say that the safest place for our children is in the schools is a direct lie to our face, you sociopathic pig.
Right.
Try it with another community.
And Ben, let me be very clear. I can remember picking my son up, and he would often say to me, Dad, we're not in the school, they're not wearing their masks, they're not socially distancing. And then the next time I picked him up, he said to me, Dad, there were only about 5 of us in the classroom. Now, that classroom had somewhere close to 30 students. There were only 5 students in the class because everybody else was out for COVID. And then shortly after, the school now says, because of the uptick in COVID, we're now going back to virtual learning. I heard it in Charles County, and then it turns right around in Prince George's County. So I'm not talking about what I think is happening, Ben. I'm not talking theoretical. I'm saying to you exactly what I have witnessed right here with my own child. And so for that fool to get up there and say to us that the safest place for our children to be is in schools, but I also want to hearken us back of where this began. You know, earlier, Ben, we were talking about Donald Trump. This is, again, part of what even our community has done, because you remember when they politicized it, especially Trump, you know, this is a virus that's going to go away in a couple of days. We got this thing. 830 some odd thousand deaths later because he trivialized it. And then they started talking about what's in the vaccine. And for us as Black folks to start talking about what's in the vaccine, hey, how about what's in a pack of Church's chicken? What's in that McDonald's? What's in the Coke that you drink?
What's in that Newport you got? Come on, man.
But now we done bought into it. We done bought into it to the fact that now that, you know, as George, as you said, we got these pre-existing conditions. And now we done let this fool put something in our mind to make us say, let us question it. You can't even tell me what's in a damn aspirin.
Come on,
and
come on, somebody.
830 some odd thousand people die from this. You didn't watch people close to you get sick from this thing, have to go on ventilators. And you want to carry that narrative of what's in it versus using something to save your life. Man,
to save our lives, man. Listen, woo. Well, that's normally where Brother Mac would say, like it or not. We're going to take a break right here. Georgia, if you can hang out a few more minutes, I would love to theoretically see what it's like to have as many people on the screen as possible. DJ exclusive. Take us to a quick break. And when we come back, like it or not, with Queen Azor, we'll be back right after this.
Say it again, say it again. You're saying you're sorry, so say it again. Only you can make my world go black. Say you love me, then you take it back. Say it again, say it again. You want my forgiveness, so say it again. You're my thunder of my dark.
All right, y'all make sure that y'all stay tuned. Like
you just can't go back and make it right. 'Cause it's too late. Your time is up. Damage done and now it's stuck. 'Cause it's too late.
G, good morning. Christopher Shaw, what's going on, brother? Tip City Socialist, good morning to you. Brother Six Dragon Daddy, what's going on? What's up with Derek Fuller? Good morning, everybody.
Say it again, say it again.
Real quick, shout out to S. Gaynor, who's one of our new patrons as well. Twitch subscribers, we have Jam Tomb, who resubscribed. Chicken Fried Dragon resubscribed and commented. Happy New Year, Lion Squad. And Octo Squiddy's gifted a subscription to Kuba90017. Hey, make sure if you have not already, patreon.com/likeitnornot, patreon.com/likeitnornot, or patreon.com/TheBeatPeople. So, man, make sure y'all do.
'Cause it's too late.
Sophia, good morning. Mama Bina, good morning to you. Teresa, good morning. Mama Bina, this weather is killing me. Laverne, good morning to you.
I'm not gonna worry, no. I'm not even sorry, you're gonna be the lonely one. I'm in a better place now. I'm not gonna worry, no. I'm not even sorry.
Gomes, good morning to you.
Even sorry, you're gonna be the only one.
Rosie Beanie, what's going on? Photogenic, good morning. Q, good morning to you. Q, have a good day at work. Man Shovel, what's going on? Brother Chuck, these lost all that snow, man. That's a lot of damn snow.
We can't get any higher, but if you like to take
Dwayne, y'all been good in that snow up there, Dwayne?
we're hiding, making you move, it sure looks good. Playing it cool like you know you should.
Right.
Wanna smile, that's one of a kind.
I already know, bro.
Can't get you off my mind.
Even y'all, my mama, good morning.
I'm running too hot, I need to cool me down. I'm flying so high, I don't see the ground. I'm running too hot, I need to cool me down. I'm flying so high, I don't see the ground. Baby, you set my soul on fire. Every morning and every evening. Ooh. And maybe we can't get any higher. But if you like to take a ride, we can discover what we're hiding. Taking your time and I sure don't mind.
Christopher Shaw, what's going on, sir?
It's getting wild, wild, wild.
Infinite content, good morning, brother.
Come be my king and I'll be
All the stuff in the background, I think they already know what time it is, so
I'm running too hot, I need to cool me down.
that's how we control the show. Edith, good morning, Edith.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Right here,
Good-
Dwayne? Okay.
Good morning and welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth.
And not care who doesn't like it.
Now, before we go any further, I got to say, Dwayne, would you do a switcheroo and put Georgia Fort up real quick? Because I want to let people know
There
Georgia
she
Fort
is. Hey, girl.
hanging out with
Okay,
us.
Dwayne over here.
Yes, take my ugly. Listen,
Hey, girl.
Listen, give the people what they want.
It's up here looking like a whole cast of Dream Girls on the damn screen right now. Baby, baby, where did our love go? And then got Dr. Mack, who was the pimp, like, come on now, Rebecca, you got to sing the song right, Rebecca.
Like it or not. Like it or not. We just turned up. We came around the corner on you guys on level 10. You didn't expect it. You thought we were going to come in nice and soft, but we don't do anything nice and soft around
And
here
soft.
at the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. We do everything nice and rough.
Job in the city.
Okay, look, because I have to keep moving from here to here every time.
Don't put me
Dwayne
back.
flips it.
Listen, don't put me back on screen, man. Because I be making I'm animated. You punched in right when my face was looking crazy as hell. Listen, Rebecca, I'm gonna go off screen, but Rebecca, could you tell Rebecca, yeah, Happy New Year. Your hair is
the hair is the
killing
wig.
them.
Listen,
It's
y'all
killing
doing
them,
the
sis.
most
You're
because yes,
killing
it's
them.
big hair, it's auntie hair. You know, I thought that this, for the new year, I would bring in with some new hair. I just decided to go curly and big. I usually like curly and big, but I wanted to just do something a little bit more auntie-like. And if you guys follow me
Hey,
on
auntie.
Instagram, I always refer to
Hey,
myself.
auntie.
30, right? I'm 31, so I'm in my 30s now. It's auntie, I ain't cousin no more. So I feel like, I wanted to give you guys Family Matters Mother.
Harriet Winslow.
I wanted to
It's
give you
more
guys
like you're giving Big
Harriet.
Olivia Pope energy.
Right. And then
Big
give you
Olivia
a little
Pope
bit of
energy.
These are clothes that I have in my closet that have not been worn for, I think, like 2.5 years, just collecting dust. And, since I've been in the house, I've been throwing on, y'all see me? I be throwing on my, my Boys in the Hood shirts, my Tupac shirts, which is great because you still will see me in that. But I just felt like this, I was going to carry over the looks from, the first that I had. And then until it starts to dry out in another week or two, then you guys going to see me with my, edges untamed. And that's all right, too.
Tim's, Chucks, right. Tim's, and hoop earrings, huh?
The big hoops, the top knot, and she's still cute. So, yeah.
What is it about seeing people out of their normal element? Like, the most
But
comments
this is not out of my normal element, and you know that, Ben, because usually don't play with me. Because, outside of this, when we're out, back years ago, Rebecca always came and showed up. Even when I'm in my Tupac, though, my Tupac t-shirt or whatever, I'm still showing up. But this used to be me all the time. Being in the pandemic, it allowed me to just be stripped and be comfortable. And you know what I'm saying? Like, just home, child, just home. Yeah.
Well, we're all at home. I'm trapped in the closet. Broadcasting, and Georgia is broadcasting from her lovely home studio, and brother Dr. Carl Mack is broadcasting from his compound there in Mississippi. We'll just say, no, not Mississippi. Wait a minute, I'm in the wrong state. You're in Maryland.
Stop giving people's address out, Ben.
Giving nobody an address. Right. Mississippi, a whole ass state, Rebecca.
The wrong state at
that. and I gave the wrong state, so he's really safe. But I don't think nobody want to pull up on brother Max, so he's good to go. And then DJ Exclusive obviously is broadcasting from the Lions Den.
The middle of the damn living room.
That's right, baby. I'm living room.
The middle of the damn living room.
It's all in one.
Right. Okay. It's all in one. Damn near in the bedroom.
No comment, brother Mac. You about to...
Rebecca, let me say this. You were saying auntie. That big hair look. I think you went from princess to queen look.
Hey. A little bit of royalty in there. I'll take it.
Yeah. There you go.
You look beautiful, sis.
Thank you, Georgia. They all call me Betty Boop, an Anchor, Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, wait a minute.
I'll take the queen.
I got to exploit this. Y'all know me. Rebecca, can we get Rebecca a one shot?
My God.
You got to do your news anchor voice. You got to do it in the other news. Because it really does match. It really does match local news anchor 12, Rebecca Azor. What's happening in your neck of the woods?
The morning news anchor. They kind of loose now. They ain't like they used to be back in the day. They loose now. They can have fun.
They're real loose.
They used to be very, now it's not that anymore. So, which is great because.
Okay. Well, now I guess we got to get to work, folks. COVID-19 is still Rebecca. How you feeling? Because you were coughing last time I called you. You didn't catch the corona.
Damn.
No, I'm asking. I'm saying how you.
I did not have COVID-19, but yes.
Hold on. You got catfish 19. That's what you got. Because the last time that I seen you was talking about going on your little date.
On this episode.
Going on your little date. I've been saving that. I forgot about it until Ben brought it up.
We will not.
He brought that into the new year.
Wait a minute.
It's 2022. I don't know what that was 2021.
I tried to warn you. I tried to tell you about that.
Dwayne.
And look what happened. We got a message right after
came back.
Right.
Ain't even going front.
Dwayne, he ain't even making it to the new year either.
Whoa. I didn't get that update. Oh man, we got the gossip.
Ben, that's right, Rebecca. Ben wasn't on the show when we talked about that when we told your story.
You know what, you guys? I feel like I'm in a new perspective on life here. I don't want to talk about that particular moment, but I will say that dating online can be very, very dangerous in many ways. Just a meetup can lead you to all over the place. So think about those things when it's time for you to, because dating online does eventually end up with you meeting the person, and whether or not you are in a restaurant or whatever, which I was, but I pray that this person is not watching. But you just got to be careful, because even in that moment where you're throwing back drinks or you're eating up your food, and then he just on the side, and you're just like,
Rebecca, they are all watching.
Are you?
Wait a minute, wait. I got to jump. Rebecca,
you been in touch with Omarion?
That's what I'm saying.
Rebecca,
have you been in touch with Omarion?
They are all watching. Rebecca, how you come on here and say, I hope he ain't watching when you're
because he wasn't watching the last time I dropped it. I thought we was just going to leave it in 20.
Your corporate job
2021.
Sally Mae is watching. Everybody's watching.
I just wanted to have a conversation about online dating, because a lot of us are doing it, except for you married and separated.
Right, Rebecca.
Divorced folks. But listen, there are a lot of people.
I feel attacked, Georgia. I feel like she targeted you and me.
Well, and then I started thinking about some of those people who are married who are still online dating.
You better say that, Georgia.
A whole group of people who be the main ones. Some of the people you talking to probably might, you don't know.
She right about it. She right about it. Ain't even go front. She right about it. But just
Georgia,
be careful out there.
I did not see that coming.
There's a lot
Georgia.
of married people on there disguising that they're real.
It's the truth.
Wait. Now we cannot talk about online dating, and I know we got some serious stuff to talk about. We're going to talk about COVID-19, obviously, but you can't talk about, because you can't really be online dating without some pictures. And you can't talk about pictures unless you talk about those thirst traps that Brother Carl Mack sent to us. Were any of you on the show that day? Brother Mack dropped his 19 pack. It's uneven. I counted them. They're uneven. He has 9 on one side and 10 on the other. But have y'all seen
being
those
over
photos?
Here counting, I ain't even had to count. You know what? No mind.
Listen, y'all are
counting
crazy. But the fact that to me it was a we're gonna make this clean fun for the family kids. But it was more of a transformation to see Dr. Mack.
Thank you.
Go where he went.
That girl lied. Shut the hell up, Rebecca.
It was a great transformation.
It was a great transformation. Yes.
Wait a minute. Wait. He transformed from a 12-pack to a 19-pack. What are y'all talking about? Like, what transformation did you actually see in those photos?
I feel like he was, he went to go get some peace for himself. But I think that's beautiful when black men go find peace for themselves and show back up very polished. And in his, he came back with a washboard. And it shows us that men, for some reason, can just go disappear for 1 hour, come back just nice and fit. Women got to do right.
Well, damn, somebody tell me something, because I disappeared for an hour. I still come back looking the same fat ass way. I don't know what's going on.
James, I don't know what she's talking about.
I found the key. I have found the secret to all of it, James. All I'm going to say is that when you get done soar the universe outside. That's all I got to tell you. And you'll be running before you know it. You'll be running a mile and you'll look up and not even kind of like you'll be smoking them like what's her name? Shakari? Is that
Dwayne?
Wow.
Is that the Drake line?
This is crazy. I don't have time for this conversation. You guys are going too far.
Dwayne,
don't bring that girl into
this
conversation.
When you be throwing in the clouds, Dwayne, you be running, Dwayne?
No. Running is the last thing on my mind at that point.
Listen,
you know what? I'll be laying down all the way.
Prior, I used to think Shakari, I used to say, and y'all were here, all of us were here. Matter of fact, all of us had the conversations about Shakari. And I used to say there's no way in the world she was smoking weed and running out there the way that she was running. After much research, because, I like to do analytical research and gather data and do surveys and all that kind of stuff, I would have to say it might actually be a performance-enhancing drug, because I'm out here running miles. I'm out here with my whole belly out here, but I'm getting some miles in the morning. So anyway, how do we get to that confession? We were supposed to be talking about Brother Max.
Like
we're talking about Brother Max
came to the
six-pack.
altar.
Where is his?
He did come to the altar on that one.
No, them pictures are gone. I ain't gonna lie, Dr. Mack. I was hating. I deleted them pictures out my computer immediately.
No, we are in 2022.
What Debbie doing?
You keep on trying to bring things from the past over here.
Honestly,
I didn't need my wife to go on my computer real quick and be like, "Who is this man? What is this?" I deleted them.
The wrong idea.
If somebody goes, if somebody goes through my phone,
it's different.
If they go through my phone, and they come across
on your stuff.
If they go through my phone and they come across those photos of Brother Mac, I just want the universe, I want everybody to know it's because it's what is inspiring me to get out there and run every single morning. Because, folks, Dwayne, I'm with you. You got to delete it. So I'm sure it's not in your TriCaster anymore, is it?
Y'all keep dropping it in the Slack. Georgia's a whole married woman. You can't be doing stuff like that.
Right. And her husband box.
And her husband box.
Look, I'm just wondering, what does Dr. Mac's DMs look like after this conversation?
Right.
I'm sure
Look, Dr. Mac.
he's going to have to navigate online dating after this, because I'm sure his stuff is blowing up.
That's true.
Dr. Mac. They'll call him Dr. Mac for nothing.
Return of the Mac. That's how he came back too. He came back like that. Return of the
Look,
Mac.
y'all got that man blushing. Y'all got that man blushing. He turning red.
Got the man red as hell over there.
Most color I ever seen in that man's
skin. He light skin too.
Right, look.
He ain't said a word the whole conversation.
He has not.
He said, just let the pictures speak for themselves.
Right.
I take it we're not going to talk about any politics, any news.
This is the quietest I've heard Dr. Magby ever.
Rebecca, if I could be spoil the party, the one thing you did say that made me think of Antonio Brown was about seeing black men who have some peace. When you said black men who have peace, I was thinking about that young brother and what he went through. And Rebecca, actually, I don't even know if you know about that story. Who knows about that story? Because I know
Dwayne knows about that story.
Yeah,
Dwayne.
Absolutely.
Hold on, before we get serious with it, I seen a meme the other day. It said it was his face, and it said every day is a half day when you just walk out and leave.
That's my way of leaving my job.
So Antonio Brown, and for all y'all non-sports people, we about to talk about some football. Antonio Brown, he's had some troubles. That's been widely reported, but he got a third chance with Tampa Bay, with the Buccaneers, and he was doing well. Just came back from an injury. He'd been in some controversy, but he came back and it was third quarter against the Jets, and he had enough, and he just hold on, let me cue up this B-roll real quick. He had enough.
Come on, B-roll.
He just started taking his stuff off and said, "I'm tired of y'all. I'm done."
Yeah.
But why did he have enough? What led to it? Because that's what I was like.
There's been like conflicting reports. One person said one story I read was he was mad because they benched him because they were trying to keep him from getting some performance bonuses. Another story was that he had been trying to tell the training staff and the coaches that he felt like he was too injured to play because, like I said, he was just coming back from injury, and they were trying to put him in. So I don't think the whole true story has come out yet, but
yeah,
man, that's pretty.
Yeah, I know it's caused a lot of controversy. I know that because I think it's led to a lot more stuff within their coaching staff and the management team down there, from what I heard as well too. So, hey man, shout out to him. He did what he needed to do.
If that was the case we have to understand, football is an American sport, right? We always talk about it on the show. And no matter what aspect that we talk about it, we can see that a lot of, not only the fans, but, the coaches and stuff, we know the coaches treat them like they own them, right? But then it's if the football players don't do what they need to do, they are going to be shunned. They're going to be talked about. They're going to be treated like you aren't doing your job. You aren't for the people. You aren't American enough. You aren't doing it gets crazy. And that's what kind of conversation that I seen in like Twitter and on all those spaces. But if this man walked out because he felt like he was injured and they kept trying to push him to continue to play and, just injure his body more potentially. I think, him walking out for his peace, him taking a stance, him, doing something that is not the norm in this space. Kudos to him. A lot of people are looking at it as like, he's lazy. This is, he doesn't have any work ethic. He doesn't have any, team camaraderie. He doesn't have none of that. This is the conversation that's having online with the people who love football, mostly the clear ones. But they're the ones that lead these conversations when it comes to any football players or whatever. What did we see with that boy who didn't choose the predominantly white school to go to, which was FSU?
He went to Jackson State.
Yeah, and he moved on to an HBCU. We saw that at this point, these folks feel like they own you.
From Florida State to Jackson State.
Yeah, so it's just seeing it is, seeing this to me. And if we look at his, what was it, his college football picture, or was it his high school football picture? He had goals all at the bottom, and that's how he took his picture.
Yeah, he wanted them.
You should know not to match somebody that looks like.
I want to hear from. I want to hear from Brother Mac on this, but do me a favor and put back up the B-roll of the brother taking off his shirt. and I want you to zoom in.
Abs?
Because, I don't think this football player got nothing on Dr. Mac.
Dr. Mac won.
This is a serious conversation, and you taking it back to the abs. I cannot.
Right.
No.
Don't worry, I was looking at it too. Dr. Mac won. Just leave it at that. Dr. Mac won.
Let me let Dr. Mac talk about it, because I know he had a poignant point.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Brother Mac. I didn't mean to sandbag the conversation. What are your thoughts on this, brother?
No. Well, first of all, the brother from high school who was arguably the number 1 or number 2 pick that went to Jackson State University in my hometown of Jackson, Mississippi, historical black college. His name is Travis Hunter. And that's him. And to the Queen's point, the narrative became from a white perspective of how this happened. And so what we need to understand is that the NCAA has now instituted where players can get paid for their likeness and image. And so then the discussion became the only reason that Travis Hunter went to Jackson State University is because there was a deal between some entity that Deion Sanders worked with that would promise him so much money. So they tried to act as though he was bought and paid for. But the fact of the matter is the rule says that for your likeness and image, you can get paid. So even if that were the case, although Coach Prime denied that was the issue, but what they could not understand is what we have been preaching for a long time. The reason why these PWIs, predominantly white institutions, have gained so much money is because they have pimped our children. Run that ball, bounce that ball. They have done that. And from that, they've made a tremendous amount of money. So the idea that Travis Hunter could be socially conscious to say, I want to take my talents, not to South Beach, but to the black community. Troubles them. They can't understand that. See, they can't understand. Now, as it applies to Antonio Brown, I knew that the moment that I saw this, that the first thing that was going to happen is that those in our community were going to begin to ridicule him, let alone what white America would do. So I have a far different perspective about Antonio Brown. And as Dwayne said, he has a distorted past of making these types of issues. But what we must understand is that the game of football, period, is a very violent sport. So violent that now when this black doctor came up and started talking about CTEs, what happens to the brain, and that CTEs is a degenerative brain disease that occurs from trauma of anybody who is constantly getting pounded. And in the game of football, you are getting pounded. So I want us to take a different type of look at Antonio Brown. Go back and look at his history of how long has this little black child been playing this very violent sport. And at a time when he played it, those helmets didn't protect you nowhere near as much as they do now. Speaking about the NFL, when it comes to CTE, there was a black doctor who exposed this trauma. I'm talking about a trauma that made a linebacker like Junior Seau, who most of us look at as very normal, take a gun and kill himself. Now that you look at that, Boston University has said most of the brains that they have looked at, that they've examined from football players, 99% of NFL players have this degenerative brain disease because of this constant pounding. Now, as it applies to Antonio Brown specifically, along with all of his history, go back to 2016. There was a game in which, when he played for Pittsburgh, they were playing against the Cincinnati Bengals. There was a guy by the name of Burford that hit Antonio Brown in the head. And if you were to watch that video, you would it was a direct blow to the head. You would watch Antonio Brown's body just go limp. Who knows what type of brain damage that brother has had? Now, in our community, we want to talk about the idea of mental illness still being taboo. So when you take a look at this brother's actions over and over in a violent sport, it's not like he was a comedian like Martin Lawrence that maybe succumbed to the pressure, Dave Chappelle that may have succumbed to the pressure. This brother is in a profession where his brain is constantly being pounded. So who knows, if you now take a look at all of his actions that we want to say he cray or he's making wrong decisions. What if something is wrong with his brain? Something to the fact.
That's real.
That you just go to the final minutes of Junior Seau's life. What was going on in this man's brain that would cause him to take a gun and shoot himself? And he didn't shoot himself in the head. He shot himself in the chest because he wanted to have his brain preserved so that people can take a look at it. And you can go through a list of NFL players who have suffered this way. So instead of ridiculing this brother, I want us in the black community to show some love, understanding, and support of Antonio Brown.
Yep.
So all the memes that everybody's doing and making jokes of it, the shit ain't funny. Who knows?
Like it or not.
And now he's got a group of leeches around him that doesn't have the power. And people saying, well, he ought to ask for help. How the hell, if you mentally disturbed, you're going to be able to ask for help and self-diagnose yourself? So I'm asking us in this community to show a little bit of love and understanding and support for this brother. Because if that train wreck were to happen and this brother goes to fix his life, now everybody's going to say, well, we should have saw the warning signs. Yeah, you should have saw the warning signs, but instead you ignored them and wanted to make jokes of it. There's nothing funny about it. When I look at him, nobody in their right mind acts that way. And I'm saying this. It is not as though I was an NFL player, logical, rational, doesn't have those compounding injuries. And that these are actions I did. I'm not in a boardroom and I get pissed and take off my suit and go crazy and leave the boardroom. No, that's not it. You're talking about a profession that is extremely violent, And who knows what is going on, what those 10, 15 years or more of those repeated hits that this man has undertaken, and all of these athletes have undertaken. What has it done to their brain? So I'm just simply asking for a lot of compassion, a lot of understanding and support for this brother. Not comedy, not fun. That's my view.
Brother Mac.
So, Dr. Mac, you beat me to that point about the hit from Burfict. If you look at Antonio Brown's past, even before that, I mean, he might not have been the model citizen, but it wasn't these issues that have happened since then.
Exactly.
And if you look at that hit, Vontaze Burfict was known to be one of the dirtiest hitters ever. If you look at that hit, people thought he would never play football again after he got hit. And he came back, and then kind of that's when all the issues started snowballing. So that's a really good point. But it goes to, like, it doesn't matter what's going on in these players' personal lives as long as they can step out on the field and make these owners this money. It doesn't matter.
I mean, the parallels, the analog to slavery.
They're going to keep bringing them back, and then they're going to put them out on Front Street, and they're going to be the scapegoats for, oh, look at these crazy Negroes. Look at how they act.
Yeah. And I just can't wait for the rest of the story to come out, because I know it just seems like there's so much more to this story, and just ready to see all the developments from it, because it's a lot. It definitely is a lot.
There's talks about the injury. There's talks about the money and all of those issues. I'm saying to you, any and every one of those stories, you can go down that path and have a narrative about that. I'm asking us to look a lot deeper into his profession and what is taking place in such a violent sport that can create this type of action and behavior that is, all of us know that is not rational. So what is it that could cause that? Well, if I'm certainly not a psychiatrist, so I can't speak to mental illness from that degree. But you gotta believe that if you're taking that kind of pounding on your brain, something is going to affect your behavior. I mean, so anything. So this is the part of this issue, as Dwayne and I was talking about it. When you take a look at that particular hit, you begin to see his behavior more erratic. Even more so. Now, granted, he's had a history of this, but again, go back and just imagine the age at which he started playing and these hits to the head. Because remember, when you look at and to really understand it, you have to understand that when this black doctor talked about CTE and began to understand what was going on into these players' brains, when he tried to take that study to the NFL, they used their incredible power and might to shut this doctor down, to discredit him. And when it came to a point that you could no longer do it, when players like Junior Seau and others began to take their lives and other people started studying CTE, they realized that what this black doctor was talking about had much, much validity, which is now, even when Antonio Brown went to, I believe, the Raiders, he wanted to take his old helmet. But that old helmet was no longer sanctioned by the NFL. They wanted to have these more protective helmets, which is now why you start reading about concussion protocol and these types of things, because now they have understood the impact of CTE. So all I'm saying to all of us is that we have no idea of how that brother's brain is functioning now that leads to this type of behavior. So I'm just simply asking that we try to take a deeper look into it, because when you go into the story, I think when you take a look at CTE and the kinds of hits that these players are taking over and over and over again, I think that something is not right. And I pray God,
I took a hit like that.
NFL never lets him play again, and that he seeks to help. Not he seeks to help, but somebody intervenes. And even in this program, when we talk about what we're talking about, and I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity to give this perspective, I just hope that this comes across as a sign of our love and support for this brother as he hopefully can get the type of help that he needs.
One thing we're good at doing, Brother Mac, is laughing at somebody when they do something. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier about how everything is funny, Rebecca, like everything is ha-ha, and then social media jumps in and everybody, now he's a meme. And they did that in a weird way, in a similar way. They did that with Chadwick Boseman when he came out at the very end of his life. And then everybody started laughing at ha, ki, and didn't even realize what that brother was going through.
That's right. And see, Ben, let me say this. We just watched the Summer Olympics, and we watched the greatest gymnast ever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when we saw her performance fall off, and when she talked about it, she talked about the twisties. So obviously, as she's doing these twists and flips, somewhere her vertigo gets off. If that can happen in your brain just because you twisting, imagine what can happen to your brain when you taking constant poundings. And that is what I think is part of it.
Have y'all ever had vertigo? Have any of y'all ever had vertigo? Because let me tell you something. It honestly, like, you could be standing still, you could be laying in the bed, you could be you could be grabbing onto the earth, and you feel like you're spinning around, like just being tossed around up and down on side. Like it's one of the. I didn't know that's what Simone Biles was dealing with, was actually vertigo. Because
if you haven't had vertigo, just imagine that night when you went out and you had too much to drink and you laid down in bed.
Yeah,
right, Dr. Mac.
Yeah, when it's spinning. Yeah, Rebecca, you should know.
Yeah, I should know it very well. I do. And when you're past a certain age, feeling like that, you can't recover for like 48 hours. I don't like it.
You said 48 days, you're right.
So it might be 48 days for some, I don't know, but it ain't like it used to be.
Haitian rum. That's what you were drinking for 48 days. But no, honestly,
the whole conversation is very important, because when you look at it from that perspective, because that's a point that I also wanted to touch on, is CTE. When you look at the sport, they are already getting beat down, hit, and it's. I've seen a documentary, not the movie Concussion, but I've seen a documentary of a few football players who have actually committed suicide. Yes. And in their letters that they left behind, they talked about CTE, or they talked about not being able to get help. And in each of them discussing their experiences, a lot of them were saying the same things. Like, I've been hearing voices. I can't sleep. I'm jittery. I get angry at the drop of a dime. I can't really hear these kind of, like, I have issues and I need assistance. Yes. And a lot of them have been those people were contacting the NFL for assistance and were getting pushed away, and they felt like the last thing they can do is just hurt themselves, or and they could not live anymore. So that's when we do see Antonio Brown, we see him acting out in this way. Like you guys said, it's like the first thing that we do go to is memes, and we laugh about it and things like that. But when we point out these kind of things that the NFL doesn't even want us to talk about, things like CTE, and how and what we're looking at when we see them getting thrown all over the place, or getting these hard hits and coming back and they're not the same. These are things that we should be concerned about and looking at, and not looking at him as property, because that's how fans see him. They see him as somebody that he belongs to us. This is our guy. This is who he plays for. He plays for us. And when he walks out, he's letting America down. He's letting his fans down. But if he walked out of there knowing that he has an injury, and possibly being forced to be put back on the field while he's hurt, after he's discussed with them, listen, I can't do this. Because a lot of those men who ended up committing suicide, crying out for help, were saying, hey, I can't do this. There's something wrong here. And so if he walked out to go save himself, more
Kudos
power to him. And all the people who have been doing that, because it's also a part of his mental health, his physical health, all of that ties into one. And he wants to live. And if that's the case and he did that for himself, more power to that man.
Right.
More power to that man. Let me tell y'all a quick story. I tried to play football, junior varsity, 9th grade, Brookhaven, Mississippi. And there was a young Emmitt Smith on our team. They didn't discriminate. You practice. JV was the practice squad for varsity back in Mississippi. So we were the ones getting tossed around. And the Coach Lowry, I'll never forget that little short Irish he put me in the hole up against a varsity player who, I don't know what happened to him, but he should have been the next Emmitt Smith. That man hit me so hard. I promise you, I looked and saw the sky. I looked and saw the ground. I saw the sky. I saw the ground. And then I hit the ground. And I took off my helmet. I took off my uniform. And I walked my ass all the way back home with a neck injury, though. You know, my head.
How old were you been?
I was 14, and I had to walk 3 miles with my head leaning to the side because I got hit so goddamn hard.
Did you ever play again?
Ooh, I know that was a big ass head too. I don't know that neck hurt.
I went to the marching band. I was a drum major in the marching
14.
band.
Oh.
But the thing,
damn, I know that head hurt.
But the point is, so imagine the concept, the reality, not the concept, but imagine the reality of Pee Wee football, right? And that our children, a child's brain is still developing. And in the process of it developing, it's beginning to take those pounds and pounds, those impacts to your brain. And that's been going on from Pee Wee all the way up through Antonio Brown's right here and right now life.
And the harder the better. The harder the better. The harder the hit, the more we celebrate.
Yeah.
And I don't know if y'all have seen, it's been quite a bit of high school students, middle school too. These kids dropping dead on the field.
Yes.
No explanation or anything.
And Queen, so when you were talking about the situation that these brothers have left letters and nobody's listening to them, the pain and anguish inside of me, it just hurts because I just know that something ain't right with Brother Brown because of the profession and what his brain has been undergoing for all these years. And it just pains me that in our community, we don't even have the decency to look beyond this joke and what white, we know what white America is going to do. We know the narrative they're going to paint.
Okay.
So again, I just want to thank all of you for allowing us to have this discussion about the brutality of this sport and maybe allowing that to be some level of understanding of what is going on in our brother's mind and in his world. And he desperately needs our love, support, and those around him to force him. I don't care if you have to force him to get help, because a person who does have a mental issue,
sometimes they can't do it.
Well, he should go seek help. How the fuck am I supposed to go seek help when I can't understand right from wrong? Vertigo, my whole world's twisting, and you asking me to self-diagnose me and say go get help.
And
out of here.
And one more thing on that. So like, I've been seeing a lot of people saying, well, he's got the best. The NFL players have the best doctors. They got access to the best team doctors and this, that, and the third. Those doctors work for the team. They doing what's best for the team. They don't care about the players.
They paying for them.
Yeah, it's okay. All right, yeah, we're gonna shoot you up with these shots. We're gonna give you all these painkillers and get back out there. They doing
what kind of health insurance do football players have when they're done? When they're not superstars and they're not super rich? Let's just say the average football player, maybe they rode the bench. The average player who took hits, what kind of insurance do they have when they leave the league?
I'll say this. I used to watch Brian Gumbo quite a bit. And I remember way back in the day, and in particular, I remember this linebacker from Mississippi State, Johnny Cook, was a phenomenal linebacker. But you saw people like him and remember now, back when Cook and Emmitt Smith and a lot of these other players played, they basically played on a slab of concrete with a thin carpet over it, and they called it AstroTurf. And so try to imagine the pounding that their bodies took. And I remember, and this documentary, I mean, this piece on Brian Gummer must have been 15, 20 years ago. And at the time, Johnny Cook, because I went to school with him, this man could barely walk. Go look at Earl Campbell right now. Earl Campbell can't even move because of the pounding that he took. And when they went in and tried to talk about insurance and disability, the NFL was rejecting every bit of that.
Yeah,
every bit of that.
Wow.
Yeah, I was about to say that was the same thing I heard, that once you're out of the league, man, it's all up to them. And like I remember seeing I think it was the same documentary, Dr. Mack, where they were talking about they were getting no assistance, no medical assistance or anything, forced to pay for all that out of pocket, and most times a lot of them couldn't even afford to get the help that they needed.
So I don't, and Ben, so to be fair, to be complete about that particular story. So I don't know what has happened today, which is why it was so important when the NFL Players Union, the other guy that I want to talk about with CTE was Drewerson, and Drewerson played with Chicago Bears. Now this guy, again, when you take a look at him, model was a NFL player representative. He too took his life, and in the end, when they took a look at his brain. Dramatically impacted by CTE. So
yes, man. Listen,
there was one guy. I don't know if that was him or any of the people that you named was him. He got into his vehicle, drove the opposite way on the highway, continued until he ran into a gas tanker or whatever, and it blew up. But he lost his mind. And he was also somebody who was saying, something is wrong with me.
Yes.
I need help. I need help. And a lot of these guys go on, they're in relationships, they're abusive to their wives or their girlfriends. This is also something that we see as a trend, for former NFL players or NFL players.
Right.
And I have two friends that I know who played in the NFL, and both of them decided after they started a family to bow out of the NFL. And I look at them all the time, and I see them, and we'll talk every now and then. But they chose to go into they're black men too. They chose to go into different businesses, after a few years, because they felt like, hey, I am way too young. I'm in my 20s. I'm getting beat down. I got a whole family. I'm gonna just take some of this money, save it up. They quit the NFL, and they've started businesses outside of all of that since then. So it's like, you think about it. I see a lot of these men who are like 40 plus still out there throwing this ball around, getting their bodies beat down, I don't even, and I say, why is this sport such a thing? When I see black men getting beat down and running into each other like that, I'm not trying to knock it, because I know football is a lot of people's worlds, but when I see this as a thing, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. And the full audience is mostly white. I just don't like to see black men just running and hitting each other. And as soon as they hit each other, it's like they're all raving, or they're all really mad because somebody lost a point. Their life is over. The way that people feel like they own these players is crazy to me. It's crazy to me. But also the way these players feel like they have to show up for money that isn't promised to them, like in the NBA. For those people, it sucks. It sucks, because if something were to happen,
NFL money ain't guaranteed.
No,
yeah, no.
So
that's right.
And Rebecca, to your the point you just made, those 40-year-old guys you see out there, those are the quarterbacks. Those are the ones not taking these hits. If you look at if the majority of people who make it to the NFL don't play more than 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's like horse racing. It's all right. We used you up. We done with you, now send you out to pasture. So and the ones making the most money are the ones taking the fewer hits. Those guys that are in the trenches and are getting beat up all the time, they're making running backs and offensive linemen, the one that are really taking those shots, they're making substantially less money than the quarterbacks, the face of the front, the Tom Brady's, the Aaron Rodgers, who are just out there. You can't even touch them anymore in the
or the real heavy hitters.
And Queen, to your point, when you say you can't understand how these fans are, you got to understand fans is short for the word fanatic. So, and throughout history, the idea of sports. So football is what it is. It's a beautiful sport, but it is a dangerous sport. But try to imagine fans or fanatics in the Roman Colosseum with the thumb down. Kill him.
Yeah.
Man has always been this way about
Are you not entertained?
Wow. Are you not entertained?
Yeah.
Well, hot damn. Let's take a break. I think this is a good place because I need a stretch. I'm getting old. I am not one of those 40 men. Actually, I am one of those
you
guys
in a
out
box,
there
Ben.
Yeah,
Ben, it's hot in there. I know
I'm
it's
in the
hot.
closet. I'm in the box.
It's in the closet.
Schrodinger's
like,
cat. I got all kind of stuff going on over here. James,
Ben, it look like you like you in a jail cell or something. Like you one of these guys on the cell phone.
This is the men Ben, they'll have like little, suit tops. I don't know how they're getting them, but they'll be in the jail cells and they'll
Where's
post
my orange jumper?
They'll post it on these apps, on these dating apps.
Yes.
And then once you match them, they be like, hey, I'm in jail right now, but I got a phone in here. How did you get that jacket? How did you get them to set up the photo for you?
How'd you get that phone?
Hey, bro, listen, they got green screens in the pen, Brad. They got green screens and ring lights. Listen, when we come back, Brother Mac, I want you to listen. There's this right-wing pastor, and I think he's from Mississippi, and he's saying, he thinks that Black Lives Matter is all,
Is this for the after party or are we staying open?
What time is it? We got time. Let's stay open. Let's stay open today. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it is the after party, but we got to talk about Pastor Shane Vaughn, the right-winger who is looking at all of Black America and daring us to come say hello. We'll be back right after this.
All right, y'all make sure that y'all stay tuned. The after party is starting up next week. We are leaving it open this morning. Laura started, yes, I did, and I got you. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. Y'all.
You better leave me alone. I'm gonna miss you, but I'll be gone. For me, there ain't no other. But you just couldn't be bothered. You never knew what love is about. It gets me 'cause there ain't no doubt. There is something about you.
Real quick, y'all, let me tell y'all what I did this morning by mistake. So instead of water, I put Red Bull in the back of my coffee mechanism. I was halfway to work before I realized I forgot my car. Lily, good morning. Albunga, good morning to you. Brother Goku.
You see me no more, no. You better leave me alone. I miss you, but I'm sick and tired of loving you. I don't know why, just know that I do. Please leave me alone. I'm gonna miss you.
Mara Cerise, bonjour.
You know I don't wanna fight ya. But there is something about
Marquez, that's just certified crazy. That ain't CTE.
makes me want to scream and shout.
Jules T, good morning to you.
Let me hanging down and out. I think you never leave me. But you cheated and deceived me. You never cared for me at all. You had me at your bed.
Skip, you stupid.
True, I'm a sucker for you. You're no good, still I'm loving you. But I made up my mind. I'm gonna pack my bags, I'll walk out the door. I won't be back, you'll see me no more, no. You better leave me alone. I miss you by just another sunny day in Southern California. It's where the people came to play. Don't let them transform you. Come and see what you've been missing on a little.
Oh, my camera died. For real quick, man. You know, poop jokes aren't my favorite, but they're a solid number 2.
It's that West Coast point of view. Easy when it's always summertime for you. Every attitude. Who cares what the people think? It's been turning kind of gray in Southern California. But I'm allergic to the rain. What happened to euphoria? Excited, dark liquor with the palm trees. It's all or nothing. Ooh, it's all or nothing. Ignore the signs and socialize. Come and see what you've been missing on a little slice of heaven. It's the only place we're living. It's the West Coast point of view. Easy when it's
shut up, Alicia. Boy, and I appreciate that. And you are welcome, Miss Mobile. All right, y'all. Y'all welcome back to the family. The family. Benjamin, Rebecca, Dr. Max, David, and Dwayne.
Benjamin Dixon and the family.
We can ride the boogie.
Come on now.
If I was going to have a gospel group,
I'm sorry.
If I was going to have a gospel group, it would be Ben Dixon and the family. Welcome back, everybody. To
come on, you old Kirk Franklin reject.
Hey, if I'm taller than anybody, I'm taller than Kirk. I got Kirk by 2 inches. I'm 2 inches taller than Kirk Franklin.
For those that think that politics has gone too far. Do you want the revolution?
Politics has gone too far. You ain't seen nothing yet.
Dun.
Oh man, do you want a revolution?
The Benjamin Dixon Morning Show.
Do you want a revolution? Indeed.
No, but it's.
But he was talking about Jesus. He wasn't talking about the proletariat uprising. Anyway. Go ahead.
Well, it's okay, Dr. Mack. You can smile.
No. Listen, he ain't gonna smile when I play this.
I can't stand that light-skinned ass man right there.
He's so light-skinned with a turtle. He's giving Drake vibes. He's light-skinned.
Big Drake energy.
He don't got time for nobody, okay?
So before Ben
girls where I'm from.
I hear Ben trying. Before Ben you're all going to get very mad. When you
No. We can stay on Drake.
Okay,
girls,
let's stay on Drake.
Girls like girls where
otherwise,
I'm from.
Okay. Stay on another dress because it's see-through. No.
Well, why would we get mad, David? What was that about? What happened?
Oh no, y'all about
the clip that Ben's going to introduce is something that we have your fun clips that you dropped last night, so we can end the segment with those if we need to lighten things up, because you are going to want to start a revolution when you see this clip.
Yeah. All right, the universe has ordained this moment for us to play this Bama-ass backwards Neanderthal of a preacher, Shane Vaughn, from Mississippi, daring us to pull up. I've got a camera crew. Let us get past COVID, and we might just grant your wish, Huckleberry.
Well, Ben, let's not blame COVID, because COVID ain't going nowhere no time soon. So we double mask up, hazmat suits. Go, no, COVID. We got to pull up regardless.
Matter of fact,
so we ain't gonna put COVID on it because they ain't scared. We ain't gonna be scared either.
I don't know if I'm pulling up, but pull up in the name of like it or not for me.
Check it out. That knock. Hey, the knock at your door, Pastor Vaughn. That's me. All right, let's run the clip.
Wait. Before
BLM does not seek peace.
Look.
Oh my God!
Just so everybody knows what this is about, because that's kind of important.
White man,
everything he's about to
don't
say.
interrupt my flow, white man. I'm serious.
It's true.
I was flowing in the spirit.
David, you out here trying to shoot some bail to your white brethren?
Okay.
I'm just messing with you.
Just kidding, David.
Now set it up. Now you done messed it up. Here you go. Set it up, man.
I didn't. Anyway.
David know I love him. David knows. He's the MVP. He's really
talking over the boss here. Anyway.
Okay.
Everything you're about to hear is in reaction to Kim Potter being convicted. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Okay. No, that was important. I messed that up. It is important to know that this man is responding to Kim Potter, not Porter, getting arrested. Run the clip.
BLM does not seek peace. It seeks war. It does not seek understanding. It seeks tyranny. BLM is demons. And you tell them I said so. Give them my mailing address, P.O. Box 2757, Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, 39521. You demon spirit called BLM, I curse you in the name of Yeshua the Messiah for what you have done in the United States of America. You Nephilim demon spirit, shut down your demands. America will not succeed or accede to your tyranny. We will not surrender to your demands. Why? Because no demand they ever make will satisfy their demon minds. God bless America, the greatest nation on the face of planet Earth, and we will never, ever surrender to these demon powers called Black Lives Matters. You demons from hell, go back to the roach pit from whence you came, saith the Lord.
There ain't no fun but the fat tongue ass. He tell you the demons in the United States of America. Yo, Yosemite Sam, man. I don't take this man serious. And then you put your address out there like that, man, they might gonna pull up on your punk ass, because everybody know that he was nobody's threat. And then BLM, I'm sure they have already pulled up and already there at that man's house.
Wait a minute. Whoa.
Stop having him yell in the background. His voice bothers me.
Wait. Oh, the gosh, yes.
Yes.
Fat tongue, bro. Fat tongue.
But he honestly, to me, if we see all of the rant, right? And then we hear him say, God bless America, right? You see how these people always incorporate this belittling of anything black, right? They of course they want to strip it all. And when they do that, it is the epitome of America. It is what makes Americans American. If you talk about anything black, if you talk about taking away black football players and saving their lives, if you talk about equal pay or respecting black folks or kneeling or anything like that, it is against God. It is against Americans. And if it's against Americans, it's against God. But when we talk about it being against Americans, it's always going to be against whites. White people believe anything that is anti-white is against God, is un-American, unpatriotic. And when we see these preachers come out and say that BLM is some kind of spiritual evil spirit, some whatever he was saying.
The Nephilim.
And there are people who are following this like wholeheartedly. It's ridiculous. And I don't understand why these people, and I say I don't understand all the time, but I do understand because I know that people really feed off of this. I mean, we had Donald Trump as a president, right? And then we even have Joe Biden now, who walks in his whiteness. Literally, don't gotta do nothing. Walks in his whiteness. And if you speak against him, white liberals will tell you that you are not doing America any justice by speaking against this man. But that's neither here or there. I'm just saying the fact that we see a lot of people who claim to be Christians walking in some kind of I don't know what they walking in, but these people,
white supremacist Jesus,
evangelicals, yes, white supremacy Jesus with the bone straight hair, curly lashes,
the Paula white supremacist Jesus.
I don't know that Jesus, but those people who serve that Jesus are clearly those who are going to sit here and tell you that if you speak about any other Jesus, if you speak against white people, you are doing you're not Christian. This is not godly, and it's un-American.
Well, hell, they said the boy who left that's going to Jackson State was un-American. I bet you're gonna have some preachers in Mississippi. I bet you Shane Vaughn. If we Google it, I bet you he's saying something about that boy going to Jackson State, because you're right, Rebecca. They tie it all in the same. It's all the same. If you don't love America, then you don't love white Jesus. If you don't love white Jesus, particularly the way that these theocratic fascists love white Jesus, then you're not really a Christian. And then you know how many people come to my Facebook page and tell me I'm going to hell?
That's
and
okay.
I'm like, that's fine.
And
so long as
that's
I'm
okay,
down there
because
with
everybody, all y'all going to hell. But listen, so
right, I get told I'm going to hell all the time. It's okay.
It's crazy because remember January 1st of last year, because we in a new year. But remember January 6th of last year, when those people ran up to the Capitol. Remember as they were preparing to march down there and they took the streets of DC and things like that, and there was that BLM on the ground.
Yeah.
Those people did. They rerouted and went over there to that area, and they found a church with the BLM sign on the way, and they burned it. And now it became less about who was losing. Remember, this is white folks do. This is what they do. It was less about Donald Trump losing. Now they had to go blame it on what? Black Lives Matter, which had nothing to do with any of that. They went to go blame it on Black Lives Matter. So any situation that happens, they're always going to grab Black Lives Matter out of nowhere. That has nothing to do with that. This is what we see often. These evangelicals, these white right-wingers, these conservative people who use God as some kind of, as some kind of, I don't know, because this ain't my God.
Bludgeoning tool is what I use. I refer. Yeah, they use them to beat down people.
Always an excuse to do something racist. America wasn't built on those values. You see how important that sounds? America wasn't built on those values. Our godly values are to walk in the way that because America is a Christian country, and in God we trust, and that's why we believe that BLM, they are the ones who are causing disruption. They are causing division, and we don't do that here in America. We give people opportunities and chances.
Rebecca, I got a character for you.
Wow, Rebecca.
Because you preaching with the bundles, and you preaching.
This is not bundles, this is a wig.
I know. I just like to call it bundles. But you were hitting, I heard you hitting the counter over there. I'm like, she's a preacher for real. She was hitting that counter and getting that rhythm. And all I heard was a Hammond organ. I'm telling you, I got a Hammond in here somewhere. I'm going to find it. I'm going to plug it up. And you're going to be Pauletta white supremacist. Pauletta white supremacist, and you gonna preach the gospel. I'm telling you.
Like with this hair on, if you got you some the right clear frames, Rebecca.
Girl. The big ones,
African angels,
the sheared mamas, the Karen Clark sheared mama with the big the clear frames. Listen,
the big 80s glasses.
Wait, hold on, y'all. I can't take us serious with Dr. Mack looking at us like that. I feel like we're in the class,
judgy
and like the teacher in the classroom. He's like just looking at us with disgust.
He was getting ready to Brother Mack. You get ready to jump in there, Dr. Mack.
No, it's just that I paid attention very closely to what this man said. He used words like BLM is demonic, the tyranny of it all. And it harkened me back to 1828. There was a black woman named Anise. And on July 27th of 1828, she killed 5 children that belonged to this white slave owner named Jeremiah Pryor. And on August 23rd, 1828, Anise was the first enslaved woman known to have been executed. She was hung for the murder of 5 children, 2 of which were her own. She drowned them. There was a woman by the name of Margaret Garner who escaped from slavery to a town just west of Cincinnati. And as a result of the 1850 fugitive slave law, U.S. Marshals and slave catchers had closed in on this cabin where she was. And she immediately began to kill her children. And most of us would know of that incident from the movie Beloved by the late great Toni Morrison.
Yeah.
There was an African-American woman on a slave ship. And after she came up from below with her child, they allowed them to come up and get some air. She clutched her child and she walked off the ship into the water, killing both her and her child. Victor Hugo once said, "If a soul is left in the darkness, sins shall be committed. The sin is not he who committed the sin, but he who caused the darkness." So Mr. White Crackerhead thinks that Black Lives Matter promotes tyranny, disruption, demonic. There is no place on the face of this earth who has been more demonic than America. America is the only country in the history of mankind that has taken the enslaved out of the human equation. So when you think about what Anise did, when you think about what Margaret Garner did, when you think about what that African-American enslaved woman or that African slave woman did to kill your child, what kind of institution did America create in the form of chattel slavery that would cause a mother to kill her own child?
Now
that
you're talking.
is demonic. That
Come on now.
is the America that you want us to believe is great. So no,
Come on now.
I wasn't bothered by what you all family were dealing with. I was simply going through history and trying to remember. So if you wants to come on Like It or Not, bring your ass on. So let's talk about the demonic nature of America. See, this is why they so refuse to want to take a look at critical race theory. Because all we want to do is take a look at this same nation that you said is great, this same nation that Trump pimped you with by saying, let's make America great again. Make America great again means let's make sure that Black lives don't matter. So, sit there and try to talk to me, because as I listened to him, all I could do is try to understand, how is it that that Black women, our queens, would take us, their children, and be willing to kill us versus to allow us to endure that evil, demonic, tyranny-based institution known as American slavery. Bring your punk ass on. Like it or not, I'll put my foot right up your cracker ass.
You salty that tooth saltine ass boy. Look, fat tongue. I couldn't even get the joke right.
Fat tongue.
Anyway.
Man. Wow.
Ooh, Dr. Mac.
Hey, did anybody see that coming around the corner as he was laying out that history so prolifically?
Prolific, bro. Oh my gosh, Dr. Mac, we missed you, man.
Like it or not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My God, today.
Tomorrow and the next day. No, honestly,
the presence of the Lord is here.
How Dr. Mac laid out that history, it still ties to what we are dealing with today. You know, the people, like, we don't want our kids to endure that. A lot of people are not even choosing to have kids right now because of the lives that we're living in today. So we understand, but this is the institution. This is what America is. This is how America literally thinks that this is okay to treat Black people in this certain kind of way. Then walk around and say this is the godly way. This is what the Bible says. So much so that even when they say that this man who claims to love the Lord, to be the evangelical, he comes from a line of people, slave masters, all them folks who didn't want us to read so that we would find out the truth about what the Bible actually actually says and what the Bible is actually talking about. Because if we did, what would happen is they would take that in an uprising and cause a revolution. You know what I'm saying? Those are the type of things that they didn't want for us. This God that they talked about is a God that they clearly created, because they didn't want us to read about things. If they didn't want us to read about those things in the Bible and things like that, what makes this so real? This made up Christianity, this made up idea, how they treat Black people to this day in this country. What makes them so Christian? I mean, my God, like they literally saw the way slavery was being done somewhere else, and they said, "Oh, we hold my beer," because the way that we're going to treat these Black people is going to be beyond just slavery. We're going to treat them it's crazy.
Brother,
so the history of America when it comes to that. And any white Christian trying to tell me about God, I told y'all about my experience going to Paula
White Supremacist Church.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but the man was white, and the church was predominantly Black because of the area that he put the church in.
So a Paula White church, not a Paula White Supremacist church, but a Paula White church. So
the church had a lot of people who were of African descent, first generation Africans, who went to the church. That man sat up there when Donald Trump was elected. I was in that church. I will never forget it. When Donald Trump was elected president, he sat up there and tried to talk to the people who look like me, and say, God wanted this to happen. And I feel that, I know you guys might be upset, but is that really truly the feeling that you should have? When I say people started being up in arms and started walking out of the church, because you will never understand. You can't speak to us about what God, you think the God that we serve wants us to go through that kind of stuff?
Yes, they do. They do think that. They honestly believe. Go ahead, brother.
Listen, Ben. I would take you all back to April 16, 1963. There was a Black man of the cloth who was in jail. MLK. He wrote a letter. A letter from a Birmingham jail. He wrote that letter to the very people and the very issues of which you all are speaking now, of what we're speaking. He wrote that letter to his white clergymen who claimed to profess a love for God, and these clergymen told him that he didn't need to be in the streets trying to bring about equality for Black folk, that he needed to go back to where he belonged. And so he penned that letter to his white counterparts who professed to have the same love for God that he had. So that is the very same issue of which we are talking about now. Queen, it's the very same thing that you're talking about. That is the hypocrisy of their religion. Or I'll say this, the hypocrisy of the interpretation of their religion. Because in and of itself, the word speaks of an agape love, a love not based on whether or not I like you, but a love for you that I have because God loves you. So in and of itself, the religion is fine. It's man's interpretation of that religion, which becomes flawed.
Y'all preaching.
Ooh. Y'all got me fired up, boy.
As a Sunday school dropout, I am now quiet on that.
Okay.
I know.
Well, I didn't drop out of Sunday school. I didn't drop out of Sunday school, but I did walk out of church one Saturday afternoon. I was sitting in the sanctuary and they were just talking about some foolishness. I'm like, what are we even talking about?
We ain't always going to agree on what, there are things that we may not agree on when it comes to, our religion or whatever. But like Dr. Mack said, it's honestly how man interpreted, or am I saying that right? Interpreted.
There you go.
The word.
You gotta forgive me. I'm like my daddy. My daddy used to do that to me all the time, Rebecca. Sorry about that. My daddy.
What'd you say?
My daddy used to correct me all the time. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I asked you guys for a correction, and that's all right. So, but honestly, when we see. I know a lot of people, and it doesn't matter who you serve. You serve who you serve, who you serve, who you serve. But right now we're talking about Christianity, and all of us here are either Sunday school dropouts. Our history comes from being in the Black church or whatever, right? Or we are currently, I am saved in the streets. But no, when we do discuss this, a lot of people have their different takes on it. But for the Black church and how we understand the agape love idea, because we've even loved them white folks enough to let them into the church and pray with them. And what did that white man do? He shot up that church.
Oh,
Dylan
girl,
Roof.
you know how to strike a chord.
Rebecca.
And bring the devil
Damn.
But that's how we do it,
Don't bring
right?
the devil out of me,
And these are in churches that we created because we couldn't worship with white folks, but we allowed white folks to come into these churches. I watched a movie where there was a winery, there was a church on land where I talked about this already, but there was a church on land where the people created a very, very lucrative winery business. And the man said, and they were giving jobs to these black people who were free, had the right to carry guns in this particular area. And these white people were like, we cannot let these black people have power. Let's ask them to buy a little bit of their wine, you know, and go into business with them. But the whole time they were trying to get on that land and kill them black people off so that they would not be empowered. And what happened? One black man felt like doing business with them was going to be good for everyone. Let that man in. That man destroyed the whole land, killed everyone, including the children. And guess who was in on it? The overseers, the officers, the mayors, everyone. And they turned their back when they all killed them. They turned white pastors, and they turned their back when they all killed. And at the time, the black man was trying to preach to the church why not going into business with them was the right idea, but for them to continue to pray for them and whatever, but we don't need to go into business with them. That's right. They need to come on our land. And then people, one of the other men who were the deacons allowed them to come in, try to do a meeting with them, and during that man preaching, those white people shot them down and didn't even care who they were shooting.
And so you all will probably be too young to remember this, but in 95 and 96, I want you to remember that during that period of time between 1995 and 1996, there were over 30 black churches that were burned in this country.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I remember that.
The same thing, you know, that's why history is so important, because when you're trying to understand, it's damn near impossible to understand, to truly have a complete look at what is happening today if you really can't understand what happened yesterday. And for us as a people, for us to understand what is happening, we must look at America. We must look at our entire experience through this country. And that's why no matter what what we talk about on the show, it always takes me back to things that have happened. And again, Brother Malcolm said, of all of our studies, history is best qualified to reward all research. When you find that you have a problem, all you have to do is study the historical methods of people with problems like yours. And when you know how they solve theirs, you know how to solve yours. That is why it is so important for us to get inside and to understand our experience in this country. And without that, no matter what level of education you have, you are but an educated fool.
Can you give me that quote one more time?
Out of that foolery.
That's good.
Give me that quote again about from Dr. King that you just read. That you just
that was Malcolm. That was Brother Malcolm. Brother Malcolm said, of all of our studies, history is best qualified to reward all research. When you find that you have a problem, all you have to do is study the historical methods of people with problems like yours. When you find out how they solve theirs, you'll know how to solve yours.
Oh my God, that is so brilliant. I had never heard that quote before. Never.
He was a brilliant man.
Yeah. Well, Rebecca, to answer your question as short and briefly as I can, because I didn't drop out of Sunday school. I just realized this morning while I was outside communing with the universe that I've actually studied the Greek and the Hebrew of the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, Pastor Vaughn. And I can assure you, you're going to hell. That's all I got to say about that. But the kind of God that they serve is a barbaric one. They celebrate the idea of a cruel God, right? The kind of God that's going to go into a city, like you just said. Which movie was it? Was it a movie or was it real life? It was based on real life, but it was a movie with fictional characters, but these are things that actually have happened in America. I mean, we can say them that's
in
the kind
so
of
many
God they serve.
instances. Yeah, that's the kind of God, and they think it's okay. The way that the police officers showed up, or the mayors, the government officials, and they looked around at those dead bodies, they were like, "Why'd you guys do this?" and walked away. because that's what Black lives mean to people in America.
That's the kind of guy they serve. That's the kind of guy they want. It reminds me of what Desmond Tutu said. I'm paraphrasing because I honestly did not know this quote until he passed away last week. I can't even front. Like I knew this quote before the man passed away. But he said, if heaven is full of homophobes, I don't want to go. If heaven is full of these evangelicals who would have lynched us, I was going to say crucified us. Yeah, that's right. You know what? These evangelicals picked Barabbas over Jesus. They already did. Kyle Rittenhouse. They picked the murderer, a double murderer, Barabbas over Jesus. That's the kind of guy they serve. They rifle toting, NRA supporting, healthcare charging, CTE ignoring. You better not kneel, stand for the pledge as the empire's jets fly overhead. That's the kind of guy they serve. I did not expect this to happen, but seeing as I do have a little bit of background in preaching, I'm not a preacher anymore because whatever. The fact of the matter is we had the conversation about bad fathers. We were talking about Donald Trump. Now he puts his children in danger. For January 6th, they were like, stop, Dad, and everything else. He was a bad father. The kind of God these white evangelicals serves, he is a bad white father. And I'm just sorry. I think God has to be bigger than that. If not, send me to hell. And I'm cool.
But Ben, think about this. From the, and I would say to the man that was on the clip before, since he wants to talk about the greatness of America, then I would like him to do an analysis on a white man who was president, the 45th president of these United States, who this America that you say is so great, this ideology of democracy of which you claim to absolutely love.
That's right.
This man threatened the ideology of democracy. How do you rate him? Not as a father, but how do you rate him as an American? How do you rate him that way? Tell me about that. Tell me how you rate him. A man who inspired a group of people to absolutely wreck the concept of democracy. Because one of the things that America prides itself on during Inauguration Day on January 20th is this peaceful transfer of power.
That's right.
And yet this fool played sore loser and said, no, let's go take our country back. Damn democracy. I not only want to be president for another term, but hell, I want to be president for the rest of my life. Tell me, Mr. church-going, loving American man, how do you rate Trump as an American?
Not the y'all so black, but when you say it hits you right in the soul. It hits you right.
I don't know if y'all looked at the screen. Everybody had that face like
that's shining out.
Because it hits you right there, and
we don't have any. Dwayne, we're going to have a couple of things we got to have in on a trigger's notice. You got to have a clip of somebody doing a shout praise dance because the Brother Mac just got done preaching. And then you also got to always keep that sister, that unmelanated sister saying, we got to keep that on standby.
No, I want to leave her in 2021. We got to find something else because that it irritates my ear.
I think maybe it's good to leave her in 2021, even though she party till like that. No,
I know there's something else that's going to come out, and it's going to be a fool. And before we get out of here, if you guys haven't watched already, because I do want to discuss this on the show, because I think it ties into a lot of things that we even discussed on today's show. But the dry humor movie with Leonardo DiCaprio.
I knew she was going to say it. Don't Look Up.
It's called Don't Look Up.
We talked about it this morning, Rebecca.
I knew she was going to.
Oh, look, I don't be watching the show. My bad.
I knew it's going to happen. It always never fails.
I knew it.
No,
she said, I'm like, damn.
But no,
I gotta go to work.
It was serendipitous.
So I don't have time to really talk.
What do you have the show on in the background while you was fixing your hair and doing your makeup?
Well, no, in the morning though, sometimes I pop you on, but sometimes I have to get myself together. It's either I'm listening to I told you, NDRE, I hit the Bible real quick, I meditate, I work out. Those things have to happen before I log into this.
You be
right after
too?
I get out of here, I have no time for any of that. I go right into, the corporate world, and I don't have no time for anything else. So that little spot in the morning that I have, I use it to be without
Rebecca,
you guys.
I have a feeling you're about to land a 747, is kind of what we say in church. Tie that thing together.
No.
No, for real. No, we actually already talked about
with the show.
Talked about it, but I know you got something to say about it.
But honestly, with that that particular show, Don't Look Up, it's exactly the life that we're living right now. We have people who are in leadership right now as we're speaking. We have people who are in leadership who are literally leading us down, a rabbit hole of nothingness. Our leadership is terrible. What we thought, because might have been the first woman or the first black woman in this space, or Joe Biden having this place, we thought this was going to be great. These seats were going to be filled. But we have to start understanding that holding people, and this is what this show also showed, that movie also showed for me, holding people accountable is not an attack, but the people interpreting that as an attack is what we have all around us. We are those people. We are the people who are shouting literally to the sky with the truth. What Dr. Mack was preaching today, what Ben was pointing out today, every single thing that we've all said on this show today. There are so many groups of people who are looking at us and saying, hey, pipe down a little bit. Listen, all lives matter. And if we look at it from that point, there's so many people who are telling us to lower our voices. They're telling us that this content is not conducive to the world because it's divisive, right? Remember, I was just saying how Americans literally call us divisive. They literally say that everything that we do is tied to Black Lives Matter. Even though this is beyond Black Lives Matter, the movement, this is what America is doing. This is what America is. This is what America was founded on. And all we're asking is for you guys to treat us okay, to treat us right. But the movie just shows that people who are shouting things that are important, that are shouting things that are going to be changing our lives in the next God knows how many years, we're going to be looked at as, oh my God, you're being too divisive. You're starting trouble. You're disrupting, right? And it's funny because we have our Elon Musks, our Mark Zuckerbergs, our Jeff Bezos, who are going to the moon and saving themselves. People, rich folks, right? The hierarchy level, right? They're going to the moon. They're trying to save themselves and all this other stuff while they're going to leave us here to die. But you know what? Like you said, Ben, if heaven is full of those people, I don't want to go. And I don't want to go up and preserve myself with those people. What I want to do is die right here in my good, I would sacrifice myself. I would sacrifice myself for something much better than what these people are trying to give us. But watch that movie and you guys will see. There are so many different places. The way that we are so infatuated with what social media tells us to do, right? And instead of what the true news is, we will literally take something that the media will poke holes in just to say, hey, we don't want to get everybody on alert. We don't want to cause a protest. We don't want to do all that. So let's just kind of leave it here.
Rebecca, can I just add one thing to it?
Add what you want.
The media would do what we talked about today. Also today. It would have us laughing at our brother Antonio when we should be able to look past his faults, his mental illness, his faults, and see the man's needs. But the way our social media is set up and the way our mainstream media is set up, we're laughing at him instead.
So let me say this. Do you know the biggest reason that most people say history is important? It's not so that you can look back and do this and do that. History is important because it helps you to think critically. This helps you to think critically. You can take just like in the case of Antonio Brown, right? When you take a look at the history of the violent nature of sports and the evolution of the discovery of CTE. While everybody else was talking about his contract, his injury, bringing race, all these other things, it just helped me to look at it from a totally a totally different perspective, especially now that we're talking more about mental illness. So I wasn't looking at his actions, again, just as Hugo said, if a sin is left in the darkness, if a soul is left in the darkness, sin shall be committed. This brother, based on where he was, there's been a lot of things that could potentially have impacted him. But again, what we have to do is we take a look at history, and no matter what situation, I promise all of you, fam, you take a look deep, especially into our experience. things just take on a whole new revelation. So, and again, I so appreciate the three of you always allowing me to bring this historical perspective, because I don't know how else to look at what's going on today. I look at it, I do, but yesterday provides such a clear viewpoint.
Yes, it does.
Of what's happening today, because I can take a look at yesterday. So I just implore all of our people to just get inside our experience. Let us understand what's happening with us. And this is why they are so opposed. They want to frame it around critical race theory. No, all I want to do is I want to look at the same point in time, the founding of America, and instead of looking at it through your white lenses, I want to put a set of shades on that looks at it through my lenses as a black man. And I want to look at the exact same issues. I just want to look at it from my perspective.
There it is. I know we're over time. Brother Mac, we're over time. And I just got to, you led me exactly to what they have to look at it from the narrative of the oppressed. Yeah. Something I've been thinking about, working on for years. You cannot, it's like the people's history of America by, I can't think of the author's name. Thank you. Zen. It's like if you are not looking at the history of the empire from the narrative of the oppressed, then you are not being truthful about the empire. Period. Oh man, y'all been preaching today. It looked like Rebecca over there like a deaconess with her hair, with her bangs and her bundles, and I know it's a wig, so I'm just messing with you. DJ Exclusive, Dr. Mac. It is so good to have you back. We'll see everybody tomorrow.
It's so good to have you back. All right, y'all. I love you guys so much.
And man, thank y'all all so much for joining this morning. We love y'all. We mean it. And before we get out of here, y'all, let me see what the affirmations are going to be for today.
I tell you, Papa, I'm going to let everyone know about my love. So I really hope you love me.
There we go. Your affirmation for today: I attract abundance and success into my life. I attract abundance and success into my life. Y'all go be great, man. Have a wonderful, beautiful day. We will see y'all in the morning. The morning show is out.
That's how much I'm going to tell you that I want to let you know.